But this morning, we'll start by serving you the AM news, like we always do. And then we'll get into our news review segment. Dr. Kwame Asante will be joining us for that. He's head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. And then Haruna Mumbarak will serve you AM sports, and then our big stories will begin. This morning, we have a fascinating conversation on the politics of greed and lies and its destructive consequences for a nation. We'll talk to an icon you always want to hear from. Stay tuned for details of who's coming up on that conversation. And then we'll also talk about climate change. Today on our climate focus series, we'll take you to Keta, an ancient city, my hometown, facing an existential environmental crisis, as the National Disaster Management Organization warns that 5,000 homes along the coast of Keta could be lost to the sea within 5 years if urgent actions are not taken to protect the rapidly eroding shoreline. That conversation and report also coming up. And today being a Wednesday, we'll bring you AM Business. And on AM Business this morning, we'll put a spotlight on the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair, where the World Building says they are poised to offer potential customers amazing offers at this year's fair. So you want to join us with your comments and your thoughts, especially on social media, Joy News on TV. And when we open the phone lines, you can call in and share your thoughts with us. Welcome aboard the AM News. Let's start with the Welcome aboard the AM show. Let's start with the AM News. And this is the AM News. Details now. There was chaotic scenes at Parliament Appointments Committee after heated exchanges between the members and the leadership of the committee. The minority had raised questions about the number of judges President Akufo-Addo was appointing to the court, the Supreme Court, insisting the process adopted was unconstitutional. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kwasi Asante has a wrap of the proceedings.
There were near chaotic scenes at the appointment committee today when two persons nominated by President Akufo-Addo came to take their term. First, the minority did raise some preliminary objection and even moved the motion. According to Mahama Yaga, NDC MP for Boko Central, who is also a member of this committee, the mode that the president has adopted in appointing new persons to the Supreme Court has been unconstitutional.
If anybody is a president and I'm to guide that person, I will show the person how to do the work properly. So please, we are not here doing partisan work. I said every president that I have known since the number was increased beyond 10 has violated this, and we parliamentarians have condoned it by allowing it to pass without ever questioning it.
Well, this is a position the majority on the committee disagreed with. It led to a lot of back and forth and chaos in the committee.
Until you put the motion to a vote, there will be no vetting. And if you want to disrespect the rules of parliament, and members of this committee, let's do it. But we are not going to throw the rules of parliament away. There's a motion on the floor. No. And we are going to vote on that motion.
You have no rules.
Who doesn't have a right? You bring the petition to order. This committee has no power to entertain a motion aimed at stopping proceedings. For emphasis, I rule that preliminary objection is hereby dismissed as same is without merit. Thank you very much.
To raise a very serious issue. The ruling you read, I just noticed that this ruling was posted on a Facebook page of a known journalist an hour ago. And I can tender this for the sake of the protection of the person. It will be extremely damning that the ruling you have given did not come from you, because you remember I made a comment that within the short period that we left here, you were able to, in fact, you were with us even in the room after a point in time, you were able to put together this very comprehensive rule. I can read out what is on the social media page of the journalist if you want me to. Do you want me to read it? This is unacceptable. This is scandalous. Unacceptable. A serious committee of parliament, and you read something to us that is supposed to be coming from you. I feel scandalized.
Eventually, after so much back and forth, an agreement was reached, a vote was taken, and at 7-7, the vote was tied, and the motion that the minority moved was lost, and so the vetting had to proceed. Justice Issa Benasco was the first person to take her turn before the committee, answered questions on her judicial philosophy, answered questions on judicial corruption, and a host of other questions put to her by members of the committee.
Honorable Chair, it is my view that law is tied to life, and therefore, as much as possible, in interpreting the Constitution, one must do it in a manner that will not undermine the social benefits that the law was intended to achieve. Honorable Chair, in interpreting the Constitution, it must be done to achieve a social end, a social benefit, and should not be interpreted in abstract. Honorable Chair, I would say that interpreting a constitution must be done purposively. It should not be narrow. It should not be doctrinaire. It should be liberal and broad so that it would achieve the benefits it would achieve the benefits which the good people of this country intended it to achieve.
The report on these two justices is set to be put before the House when they return for the emergency sitting, or when the House resumes substantively at the end of October or early November. And the minority have already been insisting that it appears the president is intent on packing the Supreme Court with persons that have his own political philosophy. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Away from Parliament House, civil society organizations in the WASH sector have vowed to hold all political parties accountable, demanding that WASH policies become integral to their manifestos. They are pushing for the creation of a national sanitation authority and urging the Ministry of Local Government to take over WASH responsibilities. Meanwhile, political parties are also promising to prioritize WASH. Here's a wrap of Joy News' national dialogue on WASH and climate change.
Sanitation and hygiene are critical in Ghana, especially as climate change worsens water scarcity, flooding, and sanitation issues. According to the World Bank, over 20% of Ghanaians lack access to clean drinking water, and more than 15% lack proper sanitation facilities. In the Greater Accra region, significant progress has been made in this sector. Project Coordinator for the Greater Accra Metropolitan Area Sanitation and Water Project, Engineer George Esiedu, explained.
As at now, as he said, we are hovering around, according to the Ghana Statistical Service, 25% of improved sanitation in Ghana from the 15% that we used to know from 2015. Access to water, we are told around 88% thereabout.
Matthias Madsen, representing the Embassy of Denmark, says these gains may not be enough to attain the Sustainable Development Goal 6.
We need the private sector to be engaged in some of the aspects, because even though progress has been made, the data is saying that the SDG 6 in 2030 is still out of reach. So we need to accelerate, we need to disrupt, and that's the reason I'm telling we need to also look out from the WASH sector, we need to learn from other industries.
However, WASH specialist with UNICEF, Samuel Amwaku-Mensah, believes we need to accelerate the process towards universal and sustainable WASH development.
It is therefore important that we look to maintain an institutional arrangement that can continue to drive progress in this area, consolidate the gains made, and also accelerate the achievement of our targets.
The progress made in these areas is threatened by climate change, underscoring the need for resilient systems and adaptive strategies to protect public health and promote sustainable development. With the general elections fast approaching, civil society organizations in the WASH sector have vowed to push political parties to prioritize sanitation, hygiene and water issues. Professor Basilia is the Executive Secretary of CONUAS.
For last year, didn't show our ministry spending much on climate or the budgeting for it clearly. But with the new innovations coming and the focal person for it, it's hopeful that we're really planning and budgeting for climate, because we can't have climate issues being run like a project.
Farouk Brahma represented the People's Dialogue on Human Settlement.
I feel strongly the challenge is a water wash governance problem.
Harold Eseku is the Senior Sanitation Specialist at World Bank.
So we would like to urge our political parties, as we prepare and as we plan, on the side of the development partners, that let's make this an integral part of what we do.
At the dialogue, some political parties presented their vision for the WASH sector. The NPP, represented by the former chief executive of the Environmental Protection Agency, Engineer Kwabena Kokofu, says they are looking to increase funding to the WASH sector to push their gains.
There is a need to increase public spending on sustainable WASH delivery. And how do you do that, given the constraints in the public purse? There is an opportunity to reduce economic impact on poor sanitation. Ghana loses $290 million annually. That is $12 per person per year, representing 1.6% of GDP. So if you're able to improve upon sanitation, you're going to save most of this amount or these monies.
The NDC says they will make sure to complete all outstanding projects and increase rural access to WASH facilities. Dr. Peter Otukono represented them.
And when we assumed power in 2009, the total urban water supply coverage was around 56.5%. And we have had to invest heavily through several programs and projects to extend rural water supply. And as at the time we were leaving power, it was around 75.6% of rural water coverage. And I believe that is also a significant leap. And if our friends had continued, perhaps we would have made some significant improvement.
Keta, an ancient city, faces an existential environmental crisis as a National Disaster Management Organization, that's NADMO, warns that 5,000 homes along the coast of Keta could be lost to the sea within 5 years if urgent actions are not taken to protect the rapidly eroding shoreline. While Ghana's coastline is expected to see a significant sea level rise of up to 1 meter by 2100, environmentalists highlight that Keta's coast is eroding at an African leading rate of 2.2 meters per year due to climate change. In part one of our climate-focused Vanishing Shores, Joy News' Carlos Caloni highlights the devastating impact of the rising ocean levels on the lives and livelihoods of Keta's perplexed residents.
A 2017 World Bank's report, Enhancing Resilience to Climate and Ecosystem Changes in Semi-Arid Africa, highlights that coastal dwellers in Ghana face significant threats from the rising sea levels, projected to increase by 0.3 to 1 meter by 2100. This will lead to increased flooding and coastal erosion, which will jeopardize homes, infrastructure, and livelihoods, particularly in fishing communities where over 2 million people are at risk. Keta is no exception. In 2021, the National Disaster Management Organization reported that 200+ homes were destroyed by these high tides in the Keta municipality alone, which rendered about 4,000 residents displaced.
We have a lot of the house here still come to spoil, and the summer house too still come to spoil. They have a lot of about 150 house we go on the sea inside.
This is my house, but the sea spoil them. Spoil my canoe, my everything, my 3 bedrooms, everything spoiled. But right now I sleep for outside.
Our front there, they destroyed the house, like 7 houses in my front here.
The municipal NADMO director, God knows, Blebu, tells me 2/3 of the main Keta town now has already been swallowed by the sea.
239 houses for now are affected. Some are partially collapsed, some are entirely gone, and those people living in those houses now, some left the town, some are living with their other family members, some are still living in their dilapidated houses because they have no place to go. The main Keta Central, about 2/3, is in the sea. If nothing is being done, I'm afraid about 4,000 or 5,000 houses along the coast here will be gone. In a matter of 5 years to come, all those houses will be gone.
Here is Michael Bumegbe, the chief fisherman of the Keji Copper community. He describes the recurring tidal waves' impact on fishing as disastrous.
2021, in 2021, tidal waves destroyed many things, including 16 boats, fishing gears, and outboard motors. A boat this size cost about 200,000 cedis. This situation is negatively impacting our fishing business as our catch has drastically dwindled.
These fishmongers say the situation is severely hurting their businesses.
Our fishmongering business has become a major challenge. Rising sea levels make it difficult for our husbands to make a good catch. It's a major headache for us. This small piece of fish on the oven costs 80 to 85. It's not up to standard, but that's the current price. When we take it to market, we don't make any profit.
A visit to the Keta Central Market, once teeming with assorted fish, now reveals a hopeless situation. Low fish availability has driven up costs, making affordability a Herculean challenge.
About 5 years ago, this one, the crab that you are seeing here, is just 2 cedis, but now it's 10 cedis. Because the fishermen are saying it's because of the rising sea level. That's why the things are like this, because the sea is destroying a lot of things, their homes and their canoes, so that's why they've increased the price for us.
Apart from fishing, farming is also a major source of livelihood for many residents here in the Keta municipality. However, the rising levels of the sea due to climate change is equally affecting farmers. Mr. Amakuji is one such farmer here in the Keta municipality.
If the climate change or the sea level on high, it will affect us. If you come plus the bed for us, and then the crop we plant it for the bed, the water come spoil it. When we spend a lot of money.
That's the seaside.
That's the seaside.
How about the lagoon side?
Lagoon side is also the same thing. The lagoon come inside the bed. So all the tomatoes and the shallot we plant there, we also blast it.
So the devastating impact of the rising levels of the sea is biting hard on residents here in Keta. Reporting from Keta in the Volta region, my name is Carlos Caloni for Joy News.
Climate Focus is brought to you by Joy News in partnership with Youth Bridge Foundation, bridging gaps for positive youth development, and the Climate Development Knowledge Network.
Let's get into our election headquarters. And election headquarters is always brought to you by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity, and the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, SEMA, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, AICPA, and together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, also Chopbox Technologies, a convenience service, and Youth Bridge Foundation, bridging the gap for positive youth development. Now, with less than 4 months until the general election, the race between parliamentary aspirants across the 275 constituencies of the country is intensifying. Constituents are making demands, expecting candidates to address their concerns. In our focus on the Ashaiman constituency, we find residents divided over whether to vote, while both the NPP and the NDC aspirants believe they deserve to lead. Here's an excerpt from the 30-minute feature on the Ashaiman constituency.
This constituency is bedeviled with a number of numerous developmental challenges, ranging from deplorable state of roads, health infrastructure, and overpopulation. So the question we are asking residents today is this: what will inform their votes in the upcoming general election?
What's going to inform my vote in 2024? Maybe I might not even vote, because the road in Ashama, I don't know whether we are part of Ghana or not.
For so many years now, almost 5 years now, this road, they haven't done anything about it.
Inadequate educational infrastructure across the constituency is a major concern, not only for parents, but students as well.
Before we come here every morning, the distance from where we are to this place is about, let's say, 3 kilometers. Very far.
Up to now, Ashama, we are not seeing any development for Ashama. As you can see our market here. We are sitting, we are sleeping. The market is not going.
The NPP has a new candidate, an educationist, Justice Kinesal, who comes face to face with a two-term incumbent MP, Ernest Nogbe. The question is, what record are they riding on to get voted?
I have chalked a lot of successes by instituting the MP smoke in the municipality, by engaging both private and then public schools in a MP schools, by donation of teaching and learning materials.
Born and bred in a place like Ashama, you should be concerned about what goes on Ashama. I went on to lead school owners, having become a proprietor myself within the area, through to the Lashibi Mission Camp area. Then went on to win elections to become a leader of school owners across the country.
The demand for good roads, a vibrant economy, appreciable social and educational infrastructure, sound healthcare system, among others, are the top issues voters in the Ashaiman constituency would hinge their vote on come December.
A full documentary airs on 15th of August 2024 on the Joy News channel at 8:30 p.m. Now, away from that, NPP flag bearer Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has been described as a man of integrity who abhors corruption by nature. His running mate, Dr. Matthew Pukuprempe, who publicly defended his credibility, said he will not be corrupted by power, neither will he countenance corruption under his administration if elected. And he made these comments when freelance investigative journalist Manasseh Azura Wuni presented to him copies of his book, The President Ghana Never Got.
Serve a flag bearer who would not be corrupted by power. And I serve a flag bearer who Ghanaians watch the space. I don't believe he would condone corruption. Neither do I believe he will cover corruption. But if we look at the word corruption in this English meaning, you can be corrupt from your even mind. And it had nothing to do with even graft or theft of resources. In your manner, it can lead to corruption and things like that. So I also feel passionately that we have used the word corruption too much in this country.
And still from our election headquarters, NDC parliamentary candidate for Tema Central, Ebi Bright, has questioned government's political will in making any meaningful improvement in educational infrastructure. Her assertion comes on the back of government's failure to complete e-block and Get Fund projects scattered around the country after more than 7 years of taking over reins. She says the next NDC government will right these wrongs from 2025. Ebi Bright was speaking at an engagement with teachers at Tema ahead of the 2024 elections. Here's more from our correspondent Kwame Yanka.
This is the third time NDC parliamentary candidate Ebi Bright is taking a shot at the Tema Central constituency seat after 2 unsuccessful attempts. The constituency has voted for the New Patriotic Party in previous elections, but believed she could get the nod this time around, as she shares her vision and that of NDC for teachers and education in the country. Crucial for her are policies that address teachers' welfare, accommodation, promotion, among other areas that will enable teachers give off their best. Ebi Bright says teachers currently struggle with accommodation in the constituency and must benefit from housing projects as part of redevelopment of Tema. She wondered if government was committed to educational infrastructure.
And so, of course, like our flag bearer promised, we're going to start with completing abandoned projects. To be honest with you, there are not that many projects which are completely ill-conceived. Every time they come up with a project, it is in response to a perceived need. But then, of course, the process is usually beset with corruption and all kinds of situations. And by the time those projects see the light of day or they don't see the light of day, you and I are fatigued. And the need for those projects have probably expired their time. So if anybody is really interested in rescuing the country, we need to revisit the rationale behind all these uncompleted projects and see that we complete them, however possible.
Ebi Bright used the opportunity to explain how teachers could benefit from NDC's 24-hour economy.
Even if you start out as just a mere, excuse my language, factory worker, you want to be able to move up. And if we accord them the opportunities to study, you know, adult education, or to better their grades and move on to study, I think that would be doing our whole social environment some justice. And this is where I'm looking forward to teachers like you, hoping that you will take up the challenge to take on to teach a few subjects, you know, a few times a week, or, you know, every day of the week, as also you're appropriating the 24-hour economy, making extra hours for yourself, but also making sure that the downtime hours in our educational sector are used up for something profitable. However, we need to look at the infrastructure in our schools, the security, light. And so when we talk about the 24-hour economy, people assume that we're talking about something in an abstract. We're very well aware of the costs of this, but it is the only way.
Meanwhile, Deputy Greater Accra Regional Treasurer for NDC, Kennedy Hedo, commended Ebi Bright for this engagement.
Page 69, from page 69 going, it talks about teachers.
It's quite clear that teachers are worse off under this government. Because NDC knows the importance of teachers, page 69 of our 2020 manifesto stated how we intended to improve the conditions of teachers and education at large. NDC introduced policies such as Get Fund, but it's a pale shadow of itself under this NPP administration. Ebi Bright pointed out that Tema Technical Institute is not receiving the needed attention as she courts companies to support struggling schools.
Let's do some business stories. The CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness, Anthony Morrison, has attributed the increasing cost of intra-African food trade to excessive taxation at various border points. In an interview with Joy Business, Morrison emphasized the need for a harmonized tax system to streamline trade and promote the advancement of the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Our challenge is first, the food trade movement, even between Ghana and Nigeria. how long it takes to move food between Ghana's border to Nigeria's border, and how long even at the border it takes you to cross to Nigeria's market. So we need to look at the food trade area very importantly. We also need to look at the West Africa tax harmonization, because at every point in time you are paying tax in the movement of food. That is all adding to the food price build-up in both countries. So at the end of the day, it's making your food more expensive while entering another country. So you are better off selling in Ghana at a well-discounted price so that you stop going through all the other encumbrances and challenges you have to go through. What is also not in place is the fact that we need to work in a very smooth way as a sub-region, and to depend on each other in a way. For instance, Ghana imports a lot of tomatoes from Burkina Faso. We import onion from Nigeria, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso itself. What is Nigeria importing from us? Are we building data as a country that will inform our competitiveness within the after? After will not happen probably in our lifetime. When European Union started, it took them years before they actualized where they are today. It will take 30 years for us to be able to even do half of what the after is promising. But then we must start from a place, and it's very important. A lot of other actions are being taken to mitigate and integrate some of the areas that are of challenges to the agriculture sector.
The lack of tailored policy and attention has slowed the growth of the social enterprise ecosystem. That is according to some stakeholders in the social enterprise ecosystem. The sector, which boasts of about 26,000 enterprises in Ghana, often leverage business models to champion social change. Speaking to Joy Business, Executive Director for Densu Associates, Dolores Dixon, called for effective collaboration to foster the growth of the sector. And she spoke at a stakeholder engagement as part of the Social Enterprise Accelerator Program organized by Densu Associates with support from MasterCard Foundation. This ends it for Business Updates and the AM News Bulletin. But don't go away. News Review is coming up next, and Dr. Kwasi Kyei Darkwah joins us for the News Review segment. He's head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Stick and stay. This is the News Review segment, and of course, Benjamin Akakpo is in studio. But a gentle reminder before we introduce our guest that this segment is always brought to you by Endpoints Homeopathic Clinic. And they're offering free prostate screening for men and free fertility screening for women at their various locations. Here in Accra, you can find them on the Spintex Road, opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronuma Buenya behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takrady Anaji Estate. In Tema, Community 22. In Techiman, Hanswa, in Esiama, in Zima. Here are their call lines: 0244 867-068 or 0274-234-321. Take advantage of this free screening and get checked. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Benjamin Akakbo, it's a wet Wednesday morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, the Wednesday is pretty wet and the weather is nippy, and we just thank God for life, for being able to be here. But let's bring into the conversation quickly Dr. Kwasi Kyei. He is head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. He's a political scientist as well. Doc, good morning.
Good morning, Ben, and good morning to Sweetie, and then our viewers and listeners as well.
And we know you are doing your best to interact with us this morning. We don't take it for granted. We are grateful for your time. We'll let you zoom straight into what your thoughts are for us this morning, right after which Sweetie Abochi will come through with the paper she has. So over to you, Doc.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity. I think this morning I want to look at the NDC Youth Manifesto and matters arising. Particularly, I want to look at the promise that stems from John Mahama to the effect that you want to pay free, first year university academic user facility, that type of.
So they've clarified, just before you go on, so we don't go on a wild goose chase. In any case, they've clarified yesterday when I had Dr. Clement Apag, the deputy ranking member on the Education Committee. I put that question to him. What is it? Which one is it? And he said it was for tuition. So just
for tuition.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
That's fine. That's fine. Yes. For me, every policy which is public in nature is important. And for every well-meaning Ghanaian, we are looking forward to policies that will make life better for our people. So any policy that is coming from a political party, particularly when you are talking about dominant political parties and any other party as well, is welcome. But what we want to hear and know is that we want to see or hear about the mathematics of it.
Okay.
How much is going to be, put into that exercise? We need it for a better understanding of the policy and also appreciate the situation and be able to follow the conversation through. So we want, going forward, we want political parties who make promises of that nature to be able to come clean on how, first, we are going to raise money, 2, where the money is going to come from, 3, and how is the implementation going to be done? How is it going to be done? It's critical because our ability to do this will give people the opportunity to be able to interrogate the issue more properly and be able to understand. And then based on that, we make an informed decision as to which direction to go in terms of voting. So yes, it's a policy welcome, but there's more to it, more in the sense that we want to know all the things that I've said. How are they going to navigate their way through this type of tricky water and be able to give us something that will appeal to our people?
All right. And just to add on, and this is all information I got yesterday, so I'm just adding it on for you on the funding because I also posed that question. Apparently, by uncapping the GET fund, they are hoping to glean about 250 million Ghana cedis, which is what they're going to pump into this, looking at the hundreds of thousands, over 100,000 students that go into these public tertiary institutions. They also talk about stemming the tide of corruption. And there's another point that I may be missing. But if you look at the expenses on free SHS, and they make their own calculations, looking at the numbers that will roll over into the tertiary level, that is the estimate. I am not in any way trying to justify what they are saying because I have my own deep-seated concerns about how they will roll it out, especially on the back of the example of free SHS. But this is what they have said, and you asked for how they were funding it, so I had to bring that up as well. That is what they have said.
I think it's a good information, but we need more as to how much exactly that we are going to spend. We don't want to have the experience of free senior high school program. Beautiful program, but from the word go, you realize that they were struggling to give us figures that we can put our fingers on to be able to make sense of that. We don't want to, get into that problem again. So we want them to specific that these are the number of people we are targeting. This is how much it's going to cost, plus and minuses, and then they tell us as to how we are going to fund that and implement that to its logical conclusion. Yes.
Thank you, Doc.
Well said, Doc. Let's get into the papers. I'll start with the Daily Guide newspaper. On the front page, NDC seats and a siege according to NAPO. Credit scoring system is coming. That is the Vice President and flag bearer of the NPP. Confusion rocks MPs over Supreme Court nominees. Yesterday, that story made airwaves. Nooks questions Mahama's free level 100 policy, and one dead in Forestry Commission, timber workers clash. Let's start with a story from Parliament, the confusion that rocked MPs over the Supreme Court nominees, and it's on page 3 of the Daily Guide newspaper. Chaos erupted at the Appointments Committee of Parliament yesterday as minority members attempted to halt the vetting process of 2 Supreme Court nominees, Justice Sophia Rosetta Idiokua and Professor Richard Frimpong Opong. The nominees appointed by the President to fill anticipated vacancies on the Apex Court were scheduled to face the committee yesterday. And the minority's argument was that the appointment was unconstitutional. The majority is saying that, led by the Deputy Majority Leader, Patricia PAG, and she says that the interpretation of the Constitution is the mandate of the judiciary. And so the minority, referring to Mr. Yarega, had no right to be interpreting that. We should leave that to the judiciary. But after hours of delay, they finally arrived at a decision and the vetting proceeded. Credit scoring system coming, according to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. The Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has announced that the government is set to roll out the individualized credit scoring system for all citizens by the end of this year, 2024. And this transformative initiative is set to reshape Ghana's financial landscape, ensuring that credit becomes more accessible and affordable for both individuals and businesses nationwide. And Kota says this system will open up new opportunities for individuals and small businesses to access credit, which in return will drive economic growth and job creation. That is according to the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. We wait and see how this is implemented and if it actually meets us at the points of our needs, where we are right now. On the international front, Iran rejects Western calls to refrain from attack on Israel. Tanzania opposition leader released after mass arrest. In Gaza, 4-day-old twins killed in airstrike. Really sad thing going on over there. And Apo is saying NDC seats are under siege. The ruling New Patriotic Party has planned to snatch some key parliamentary seats from the opposition National Democratic Congress on December 7th. According to the party, the targeted seats included the famous Asawase constituency in the Ashanti region, which has never been won by the NPP before. And this was disclosed by Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh. Let me do some sports stories away from the politics. Raise the flag of Ghana high. The Minister for Youth and Sports, Mustafa Yusuf, paid a visit to the Black Princesses team ahead of their departure to Colombia for the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup. And I think this is the 7th consecutive appearance we are making on that global stage. Congratulations, and I hope they make us proud. Doc, these few stories for your quick reflections coming from the Daily Guide newspaper.
I want to reflect on the appointment that initially the minority raised concern about, and later they moved into undertaking the vetting.
Yes.
I want to understand what really informed the change of their mind relative to the issue. Because the issue that they raised is legitimate. So one would have thought that they would carry their threat through. So I don't really get what really caused the change in decision and all that. But let's come to the issue. The woman who said that issue of interpretation must be given to the Supreme Court because that is truly in the responsibility of the Supreme Court. We agree. But Parliament also has an oversight responsibility that they exercise. It is when this thing is in contention, and then you want to go to the Supreme Court for interpretation. So I don't see anything wrong when Parliament decides, that is minority, decide to question what is really at stake. You know, I am a bit surprised about that, because strictly speaking, that is the role of what? Parliament in exercising oversight responsibility over executive appointments and all that. But the issue, if it is true that the candidate or the nominee has a dual citizenship and he needs to renounce that, then I think it is interesting to visit that conversation at another time, that we really want to understand if the laws of this country allow that. If it doesn't, then Parliament must come and then inform us properly about the change in decision.
Right.
Two, the issue I want to look at is the MPP, their efforts to get some of the seats that we know are, comfortable seats for the NDC, particularly as Awase and all that. It is good to target things of that nature, but it is also critical that they walk the talk. It's not easy that you want to get some seats which are so far have been the natural seats or the strongholds of a certain political party. You need to do a lot of work. At Awase, if you look at the chemistry of the place, you look at the voting patterns, and you look at things that inform voter choices, then they need to go a long way and then work out. But we wish them well. For us as political watchers, we always believe that the ground is equal for every party to compete. So if there is a seat you want to annex, so be it, but you need to work and work hard. Because some of those places, I call them the enclaves within strongholds, are enclaves because they are very, very strong. So it is not just mere talk. You need to walk the talk.
Right. Well said, Doc. Benjamin, let's do your paper next.
Well, let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper. Stock exchange to support a graphic listing. That's according to Abena Amwa. There's also accountability and education sector vital. Some experts say so. Stop attacks on courts, Supreme Court nominee, and ATU CEO's lecture series. Let's teach students technical skills and home sense. That's according to Dr. Ejenim. On the back page, the World Food Program launches post-harvest mechanization training program, and potholes overgrown medians engulf roads despite road repair app. I guess everything is being resolved by apps nowadays, but technology is not technologying in every sense of the word. Let me start from there. The newly introduced road repair app faces a stern test as some roads in Accra remain dotted with potholes. The problem has exacerbated traffic issues in the city and compounded traveling time over short distances. This came to light when the Daily Graphic toured some areas in Accra over the last few weeks. At the Accra road bypass on the STC stretch, so I think it's saying pools of potholes were seen littered in the area when the Daily Graphic team got there. It was noticed that drivers had to either slow down to go through the potholes or meander their way around them to continue their journey. Also on the roundabout at the South Industrial area near the Fun Milk plants, the potholes were yet to be fixed, causing traffic on that route, which is a major road that leads out of the enclave to the Kwame Nkrumah Circle. And there are many more that are cited here. So road repair app, is it up and working? That's the question. The World Food Program has launched a $100,000 post-harvest agricultural mechanization training program for the youth of Ohau in the Ketu North municipality of the Volta region and Wenchi in the Bono region. That actually happens to be where my friend Ben Dochimalo is from. So it's interesting to hear. The two events are to benefit 1,750 agricultural engineering graduates, diploma holders, as well as national service persons in the next 2.5 years. But then let's do two other stories, and I'll come to you, Doc. Stock exchange to support graphic listing. That's according to Abna Amwa, who is managing director of the GSE. Now, the Ghana Stock Exchange has assured the management of the Graphic Communications Group Limited of its commitment towards helping the company complete its process of listing on the local bourse. Now, the managing director of the GSE, Abna Amwa, during a courtesy call on the MD of GCGL in Accra yesterday, said, quote, "We want to see this national heritage brand continue to excel." She said the GSE was excited when it came to its notice that Graphic was planning to list on the market and has since been following up on the process. We salute the Daily Graphic and, of course, the Graphic Group for this endeavor. God knows that in these times, while it has not happened the way some people felt, that newspapers would be wiped out on the back of, online portals and all of that, it's a tough business staying on. And if you look at the history of the Daily Graphic, they have come far. What sometimes becomes problematic is leadership, which sometimes the politicians will want to play with, and positioning, which sometimes creates some worries. I'll wrap with this story on page 13, Doc. That'll be my final story for you, at least for now. Stop attacks on courts, Supreme Court nominee. Now, a justice of the Court of Appeal, Sophia Rosetta Benasco Essa, has urged the public to desist from crossing the boundary through scurrilous attacks on the courts or making prejudicial statements on pending matters, saying such tendencies impaired public confidence in the judiciary. After a prolonged controversy over the manner of the appointment process and other connecting legalities, Justice Benasco Essa took her seat for the vetting that lasted about 2 hours. She said once judgment had been delivered, people were at liberty to attack it all the way to whichever level they wished and could have it determined on appeal. However, such commentary should be informed discussions instead of inciting the public against the person of a judge or of the entire judicial system. And I'll just add, I'm sure you've heard of that other judge that the minority is resisting the approval of, or at least was resisting the approval of, because he is Canadian Ghanaian. And they are saying, fair is fair. If you applied it to James Jachikwason, then we can't pick and choose right now. Your quick reflections on these stories, Doc.
Yes, I will start with the statement by the nominee to the Supreme Court about attacks on the court anytime judgment is delivered. Yes, it is something that is gradually gaining currency in this country, which is very unfortunate. Yes, there is nothing wrong criticizing the Supreme Court, but when it becomes an attack of their persons and the work, picking certain, issues which are not tangential to the facts on the ground, then it becomes unfortunate. But we also want to put a record that the Supreme Court is a public court, and that also when their work is also, we are armed with the power as a society to also scrutinize the work of the Supreme Court, provided we do it with decorum, provided that we are mindful that we are working within the framework of the law. So the two things are, criticisms are very important because they grease the wheel of the work of what? The Supreme Court. But criticisms that, impugn the integrity of the court, we disagree and then we condemn that. So the public should be able to have a fine balance in dealing with these issues so that we can get the courts going at all times. The second issue is the issue of the Well Food Program and the work they are doing to support food security in the country and all there is to it. Great work, I commend that. But this country must take agriculture seriously if we really want to do away with all manner of problems that confront us relative to what food production and agriculture in general. I have observed, I'm not a great scholar, but I have observed from my little corner some of the things that we fail to do as a society. Look at agriculture, which has been the backbone of this country, the mainstay of this country. But it appears to me that we are not investing so much in there, and then we are letting go some of the strength that we used to have in that area that put us on a certain pedestal. Today, all these things are going away. So I am hopeful that government will take a cue from what World Food Programme is doing and also support the effort of farmers and everybody who is interested in agriculture, and even encourage people to go in. That is where we have our strength.
Right.
We need to be able to strengthen there and then make the place work so that it can create jobs, it can improve the economy.
Right. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on these matters.
Because Doc landed on farming, I want to read this story about food. And I have the, beg your pardon, I have the Ghanaian Times newspaper. And food shortage looms as lack of rains affects crop production, leaves farmers distraught. The story is on page 12, and I want to read a bit of that. So the lack of rainfall in parts of the country for several weeks is affecting farming and raising concerns about potential food scarcity and price hikes in agricultural produce. And although it is a farming season, the northern parts of the country, as well as the middle belt, have seen little to no rain for the past 2 months, devastating crops and leaving farmers distraught. Now, some affected farming communities in the Bono area at Techiman, Kintampo, and Kranza, with the southern parts of the Volta region and the Greater Accra region also experiencing the same ordeal. And the question is, aren't we at the point yet where we should move away from waiting on rains before we can farm? Food shortage is looming. Anyway, let me do 2 more stories before I come to you, Doc. There's a story I saw. Right, let me start from here. It is an election year after all. Ashanti Region NPP commences 2024 election campaign, inaugurates campaign working team. The Ashanti Regional New Patriotic Party has commenced a 2024 electioneering campaign with the inauguration of its regional campaign working team. And yesterday I listened to Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, and just something caught my attention. He was going on about how Ghana has been resilient in terms of economic woes, global economic woes, but seems the country is standing strong. And then he was listing past precedents and what they've done. And then he got to Atta Mills and said, Bakuno weird, if anything. What is it with this man? And some of the things he's
I think we shouldn't even repeat. You know, there's this saying, and I'm sorry I have to.
To him, and this party is saying, defending this man, that he's not arrogant, and yet some of the things he says, when I hear it, I wonder.
How can you refer to a president who has passed on? I mean, what if someone were talking about former Vice President Aliu Mahama, and referred to him as, I don't even want to utter those words, but I guess in the end, it's up to him. It's his party's problem, and they will navigate that as far as the electorate is concerned ahead of election 2024.
Right.
You know, the sad part is some people will come and defend such things, but even in our cultural context, you don't refer to dead people in a certain way. Same way you don't point to your village with your left hand. But I guess I don't want to dwell on that.
It's the confidence. You know, when you listen to the NPP campaign, it's not that we're appealing to you to help us break the 8. It's not that we need you to help us do more. It's more of we are going to win. We are not the president himself said we are not handing over power to the NDC. We will use any means necessary. And it's not even scary anymore. Now it's just annoying because these are people who should know better, you know. Let me put a pin in that and do one more story.
Maybe that is where you should learn not to be provoked.
Well, it's gone past provocation.
The provocation should, I guess, be felt in election 2024.
Right.
That's where
there was an interesting story I was looking for about Ghana arm wrestling, the national team going to they're joining the global competition somewhere. Good, I found it. So the Golden Arms to participate in the 45th World Championship. I think that's interesting. And the Golden Arms is the national arm wrestling team for Ghana, and they will represent Ghana at the 2024 World Arm Wrestling Championship to be held in Chisinau, Moldova on August 15 to 25th. And Ghana's Golden Arms will be represented by double gold medalist and African champions Grace Minta of the Ghana Police Service, Edward Yamwa Asamoah of the Ghana Immigration Service, Blessing Abeka Nuno and Godwin Saki, both civilians with the Ghana Immigration Service. And the team would be led by the president and founder of the Ghana Arm Wrestling Federation, who is also the president President for the Africa Arm Wrestling and Vice President of the World Body, Mr. Charles Osei Asibe, and they will leave Accra tomorrow. Congratulations for them, and I hope they make us proud. Doc, these few stories for your reflection.
Yes, I will start with the issue about Napo. I'm surprised that with all the wise counsel given to him, from the king, Asante Hene, and from well-meaning Ghanaians, these things continue to show in public. It means that he has to do self-introspection and then correct all these things. Because, look, you are dealing with a society where these things are not countenance at all. And if they caution you and only come back to take the conversation to another level, then you create a problem for yourself and your party. It is important for him to reflect on all these things and manage his outbursts and his utterances. They are not good enough at all. Look at the statement he made, and it's unfortunate. It appears to me that it's becoming very incorrigible relative to this issue we are talking about. But that should not be what should define him as a politician. We should know him for the strength that he has, what he brings to board. But these things are negatives that will detract the attention of the public towards him. This is the time that he needs a lot of attention in a positive light. So things about negative, he should work against them. I think that a word to a wise is enough. Mm-hmm. I'll move on to look at food shortage that is looming. Yes, I'm not surprised that we are gradually getting there. I'm not a prophet of doom, but the way we are planning this country in terms of food policies, food programs, agriculture in general, if we don't take care, a time will come, our import bill in terms of food will go extremely high. The very little things that we do to support ourselves and only get the rest from the rest of the world, we have abandoned them. And now we are going into areas that do not support what we are doing. Now, go to the rural areas, you realize that appetite for agriculture, we are losing it gradually. We are losing it. And sometimes you look at it, you realize that it's nothing but policy failures and then, wrong policies. I will cite one example to buttress my point. Look at government putting in a lot of effort in the area of aquaculture. And now, you go to farmers and talk to them. After they've done so much by, producing a lot of fish, they have nowhere to sell. I have taken the trouble to call the ministry to find out what is it that they are doing to arrest this problem, especially when government is giving people fingerlings, feed and the rest. The input are provided by government to some people. And now, here you are. When the thing gets ready, you are not there to buy. I mean, for me, it beats my imagination. Look at galamsey activities and its effect on agriculture. It's if you've been to cocoa growing areas, you realize that galamsey, where there are big rivers, where there are minerals, galamsey is taking away agricultural ventures, pushing farmers to the periphery and all that. We are heading for danger, and it is about time we stood firm, made sure that we had sound policies in place to deal with this problem head on. Because I always bow my head in shame when we go to Burkina Faso, a desert area, to buy tomatoes, to buy vegetables and all that. And here, God has blessed us with arable land. Ali Mazuri would turn in his grave that Africa is the richest and yet the poorest. Well, we are rich in all natural resources, in everything, and yet we are poor in this. What a paradox. I don't want my country to get on that line.
Well said, Doc. Benjamin.
Just some headlines I'll leave us with. The Ghanaian publisher, and I'm not going to go over some of them, but Mahama cries over NPP voter gains, says they barely made any inroads under Rawlings. I don't know whether he's also crying over the fact that his party has also incrementally got higher votes in the Ashanti region as populations have increased. Napo, optimistic NPP will secure 85% of Ashanti votes. Doc, later I'll come to you for your reflection on that. Minorities coup against Supreme Court nominees failed. That's how they captured yesterday's incident in Parliament. Then the Inquisitor newspaper, I'll just focus on this story. Bright Simmons writes, the strange case of Ghana first gold refinery and its broke investor. Pictured there, the Rosie Royals headquarters in Ahmedabad, and we know that is where that is. And the source there is from Google. I'm talking about the picture. But Bright Simmons, I've been reading his posts, and he suggests that this is another backdoor route bringing back the Ejapa deal. And that's the story captured there. Those for your reflection, if you may, Dr. Kwame Asasa.
Yes. I think I'll touch on the 80% of Ashanti region votes.
85%. 85%.
85% of Ashanti region votes that MPP want to clock. Yes, the intention is founded, but as I've already said, there are a lot of work that you need to do, especially when you look at factors that influence voter choices. I've said and I will repeat, there are a lot of them that are not going well for this government. So if really they want to up their game, then they need to fix the economy and make sure that it is not on paper, but it reflects in the pockets and in the daily lives of people. The issue of nuisance taxes continue to be nuisance to society, and government has failed to do more in that area. You talk about business people, they complain about taxes, and what is government doing about that? The issue of a healthy economy that rubs off with everybody should be their topmost priority if they really want to annex these seats and then make it their own. Then they need to fix the economy, so to speak. Because once the economy is fixed, any other sector will have its fair share. So areas such as infrastructure improvement, which voters always consider when they are voting, will be a thing of the past. Issue of employment, which has become a problem for the teeming youth, will also be addressed, and the rest of them. In addition to specific constituency-specific issues, all right? Each constituency have their own specific issues that confront them. Are they ready to address them? So it's not that simple that you will annex. We had this statement from, Woon to me, the last election and all that, and all of us are alive to what really came out finally. So we are saying that it's easier to pronounce some of these things, but how to execute is a problem. So they need to work the mathematics if they really want to up their game.
Thank you so much, Doc, for joining us this morning, Dr. Kwame Asante, and we wish you the very best of the day. He's a political scientist. He's also head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Before we go, today happens to be the birthday of a very special man who gave us a very special gift. And he's in the person of Alex Owusu-Japong. He is 90 years old today. When I combine my age to Sweetie's, we'll still get nowhere near his age. I think it's fitting to say, Grandpa Alex Owusu-Japong, happy, happy, happy birthday to you. And may God crown you with much more life. I'm sure he could hit the centenary, could hit a 100, God willing. Anyway, that's it for the news review. Sweetie Abochi.
Yes, but before we go, a gentle reminder that this segment is always brought to you by Endpoints Homeopathic Clinic. Again, they're offering free screening, prostate screening and fertility screening for men and women at their various locations in Accra, on the Springtex Road opposite the Shell signboard. They're there in Kumasi, they are at Konumabuenya behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takrady, you can find them in Anaji Estate. In Tema, right there in Community 22. In Techiman, Hansua, in Esiama, in Zima. You can also call them on 0244-867-068 or 0274-234-321. Endpoints Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Sports is up next. Don't go away.
Good morning. Let's do sports now on the AM show with me, Haruna Mubarak. We start with a Waffle Zone B tournament where Hazakes ladies face Nigeria's Endo Queens today in a must-win encounter. Now, a positive result will boost their chances of qualifying for next season's CAF Women's Champions League. Lawrence Beru is with the team in Ivory Coast and has this report.
Hazakes ladies as they prepare to face Group B leaders, Edo Queens, in their second game of the Waffle B Championship. The goalless in their opener makes the upcoming tie a crucial one for the Hasmal ladies in their attempt to prolong their stay in the competition. In order to achieve that, today's training session was much focused on organized movements, telepathy of the team, as well as the sharpening of their scoring boots. Ahead of the fixture, assistant head coach of the side, Emmanuel Kusimensa, has been speaking about their preparations and what the importance of the game against Edo Queens will mean for them.
Well, we're already in competition season, so for me, I think that we will have to be very competitive even during the training. And looking at today's training, I can see that the girls actually gave their 100% effort right from the warm-up stage to the last stage, which was more of the tactical bits. We're very competitive. That is the standard of us. Like I always say, it's result-oriented, and so we are ever ready for the game tomorrow. Well, for competition, always the start looks a bit tricky, and you can also expect that there will be one or two players that will be a bit tensed up. And so now that the competition fever already is on us, I'm seeing that the girls are in very high spirit, and besides too the mistakes that we did in the first game, we have looked forward to correcting them, and we are seeing more of improved performance in the game against Edo Queens.
In terms of team news, the side is boosted by the presence of Felicity and Grace Enima, who both missed the opening match, while Pfizer, who picked up an injury in the first game, was unable to train. It's a Ghana-Nigeria derby, Hazakes ladies vs Edo Queens. All 3 points are for stake, but the determiner will be on that very turf, the Boake Stadium, on Wednesday. For Joy Sports, Lawrence Bedu, Boake, Ivory Coast.
Now, the Black Princesses have departed Accra for Colombia for the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup. The team will continue preparations in Colombia ahead of their 7th consecutive appearance at the tournament. The competition will kick off on Saturday, August 31. And remember, the Black Princesses will open their campaign against Austria on September 2nd before taking on Japan and New Zealand in the other Group E matches.
Welcome back on the AM show. Before we get into our big stories, let's serve you AM Business. Now, as part of this year's EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair Home, World Bidding says they are poised to offer potential customers amazing offers at this year's fair. James Eshen has been speaking to the store manager and came through with this report.
So, a few weeks to the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair, and this is a platform that seeks to create a unique platform for prospective homeowners as well as the real estate companies in our part of the world. As part of this year's event, we decided to pay visit to Homeward Buildings, and when it comes to anything housing, you'll get it here. I have the store manager for Homeward Buildings here somewhere around the East Legon. Jocelyn, talk to me. Is this your first time coming for the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair?
Yes, this is our very first time, and we would love to meet everybody there.
Well, what really pushed you this time to want to partake in this event?
Well, we are a new concept store, and we wanted to show the Accra market what we have. So we are a one-stop shop, and we want to invite everybody in to see all of our good and quality items.
Talking about the Accra market, how are you guys faring within the Accra market?
We are doing so far very, very well. It's just that we're not very known yet. So maybe after this market, more people would know about us and our location here in East Legon, and we'd love to welcome them in.
When I came here, I've seen quite a number of staff. When you look behind me, quite a number of them. Just run me through some.
Okay, so we have electrical, we also have plumbing, paint, tools, hardware, as well as some appliances as well.
Now, what should prospective homeowners expect from Homeworld buildings this time?
Definitely a one-stop shop in quality items. And our main product that we're introducing to the Accra market is our quality paint. It's US made, it is certified, so it is even used in hospitals.
Now, what do you also expect from the event?
We expect to meet new clients, and also just any questions that anybody has to ask us about the business and about our products, we're here to answer.
I know you've already given me some of the stuff you sell, but you'll be taking me through what you guys sell, and you run me through. Maybe people would want to know more. So I'll get back to you as we go through the store to know what exactly is. It's been sold here at Homeworld building.
They're all made in the U.S. So we have Easy Care paint, and we have our Painter Select paint. We also have other brands such as Painter Select Fresh paint. But they're all certified paint, like I've mentioned earlier. They're certified by the U.S. LEED company, and also it is allergen certified as well. So you can paint your house today. There are no toxins, there is no smells to it, as well as even a child. And like I said, it is great in hospitals as well. So if it's safe for a hospital, it's safe for your house.
I'm seeing some colors there. What are they meant for?
So these are all of our paint chips and all of our colors that we can mix for you. So I think most paint stores here may have a limited range of colors, but all of these colors can be mixed right here with our paint experts for you.
So let's say you pick one. How do you go about it?
All right, so the first thing that we do, we actually bring you here to our lights, because in your house, your light will be different than what is outside. So you definitely want to choose which light is in your house and what the color will look like. So you come here and our experts will go ahead and show you how each color is in your house and different lights. It helps you select a better color for your house. So if you know what's already in your house, it's easier for us to do that. And our paint already has primer in it as well. And we do sell primers as well.
Okay, so I'm seeing some white branded paint and as well as some black. What's the difference?
All right, so the black one is our Easy Care paint, and this is what we are most proud of. It is washable. It really is washable, and it's allergen free as well.
Now, from the paint, I'm seeing that the colors, I don't know, are they crayons or what exactly are they?
We do have a little stationary area, as well as to the left of it we have a hanging tools, which is our command strips. So this is our little school area for stationery for kids and parents that they want to, or for your office wear as well.
And are these also paints?
These are also our paint. We have exterior paint, we have weather all, which is really great for outside. So we have several options.
So Josephine, I would want you to take me through other parts. I've seen some chairs and tables there. What are these chairs for? I mean, is it indoors, outdoor, what exactly?
So these right here, these are indoor chairs. We have our bar stools next to you, and this is great for kitchen. This island right here is really wonderful because you were able to move it around. For those that have a small space, you can it's actually locked at the bottom, but you can actually have a kitchen island within your kitchen, especially for those that have a very, very small, tiny kitchen area. So it just helps with space. But we do have some indoor furniture here, as well as an outdoor area too.
So how do we get to know this is indoor or this is outdoor?
Well, we do have associates that will be able to explain the different quality to you, as well as the quality of the fabric on the chair. And we do have a section just mainly for outdoors.
How different are these from what we see here in Ghana?
Well, ours is more contemporary, and I feel like they are more easy to look after, and it'll be great for smaller spaces as well as a larger home. We have larger carpeting for your space, and great storage as well. So if you have a smaller apartment, these would be great for that.
This looks very nice. There's also a table.
It is a bench seating as well as a storage unit, yes.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. And I'm seeing some wardrobe. Is this a wardrobe?
This is actually just, it is a cabinet for your corner of your apartment or your home, so you can display maybe memories, full photos of your family, as well as some beautiful ornaments.
Okay. I'm seeing some interesting like the collections and also some fans there. Are these made in Ghana? Where are they from? Talk to me.
These are actually shipped from the U.S. Okay. So the reason that we ship from the U.S. is because it will be certified, and it has to go through customs and actually a lot of certification for it to enter the country. So it's easier for us to get it here because we know it has a standard before it gets to Ghana.
And this looks very nice.
It's beautiful, yes. So this is one of our most beautiful lights. We actually have bigger chandeliers in the back as well.
Take me to where the chandeliers are.
All right. So we have something like this. We haven't hung them up yet, but we do have these.
Okay.
Beautiful ones for your home, and we have more lights that will be coming in as well.
And also, when it comes to anything electrical, since we're dealing with housing here, cables are also very important.
Yes.
And talk to me about the cables.
So our cabling, we actually went with some local vendors here as well. So we wanted to make U.S. as well as local vendors to marry it. So meaning it's a one-stop shop for everyone. So these are from Signal Cables. And they're one of our top sellers, especially when it comes to cabling. A lot of customers like them because they're made right here in Ghana.
How unique are these ones?
Very, very unique. So sometimes if your faucet is giving you a hard time, your shower heads are, you don't have to replace the entire shower. All you have to do is get a shower head and take out the old ones that you have and replace it. So this makes it very easy to just maintain your house that you already have. This is a good idea for those that are DIY. If you want to do it yourself, this is where you come.
Just the most important thing is, how do we locate home world building? Let's say someone coming from Accra, let's say Accra Central, someone coming from Cape Coast, Takoradi, Darkwah, any part of the country. How do we locate you guys?
The first thing I would say, just Google us. We're on Google. Once you type in Home World Building Supplies, we will come up on there with our address and our phone number. We have our phone number on WhatsApp as well as Instagram and Facebook.
I want you to give out your phone numbers to the prospective homeowners who would also want to, call you guys or reach out to you guys.
Yes, absolutely. Give us a call at 020-515-5676.
And what's the website?
It would be homeworldbuildingsupplies.com. Also find us on Instagram at homeworldgh.
All right. Anything you would want to say as part of this year's EcoBank Journeys Habitat Fair?
We look forward to seeing you all and come visit us for an experience.
And for one interesting thing about the EcoBank Journeys Habitat Fair is sometimes we hear these companies come on board with discounts. Should we expect anything from you guys?
Absolutely. Come and see us at our booth at the Habitat Fair, and we can go over your discounts there. But we will definitely have a discount for you as well.
All right, so this is Home World Buildings, and it's here at the somewhere around East Legon, ANC corner. And anything you need that had to do with housing, you definitely get it here, from lighting to paint to whatever you need. Just reach out to them. They will surely get you anything you need. So far as this year's EcoBank Journeys Habitat Fair is concerned, you are not far from home, and this is one of the best places you can get when it comes to anything housing. For Joy Business, James Ishen.
A 2017 World Bank's report, Enhancing Resilience to Climate and Ecosystem Changes in Semi-Arid Africa, highlights that coastal dwellers in Ghana face significant threats from the rising sea levels, projected to increase by 0.3 to 1 meter by 2100. This will lead to increased flooding and coastal erosion, which will jeopardize homes, infrastructure, and livelihoods, particularly in fishing communities, where over 2 million people are at risk. Keta is no exception. In 2021, the National Disaster Management Organization reported that 200 plus homes were destroyed by these high tides in the Keta municipality alone, which rendered about 4,000 residents displaced.
We have a lot of the house here still come to spoil, and the summer house too still come to spoil. They have a lot of about 150 house we go on the sea inside.
This is my house, but the sea spoil them. Spoil my canoe, my everything, my 3 bedrooms, everything spoiled. But right now I sleep for outside.
Our front there, they destroyed the house like 7 houses in my front here.
The municipal NADMO director, God knows, Blebu, tells me 2/3 of the main Keta town now has already been swallowed by the sea.
239 houses for now are affected. Some are partially collapsed, some are entirely gone, and those people living in those houses now, some left the town, some are living with their other family members, some are still living in their dilapidated houses because they have no place to go. The main Keta Central, about 2/3, is in the sea. If nothing is being done, I'm afraid about 4,000 or 5,000 houses along the coast here will be gone. In a matter of 5 years to come, all those houses will be gone.
Here is Michael Bumegbe, the chief fisherman of the Keji Copper community. He describes the recurring tidal waves' impact on fishing as disastrous.
In 2021, tidal waves destroyed many things, including 16 boats, fishing gears, and outboard motors. A boat this size cost about 200,000 cedis. This situation is negatively impacting our fishing business as our catch has drastically dwindled.
These fishmongers say the situation is severely hurting their businesses.
Our fishmongering business has become a major challenge. Rising sea levels make it difficult for our husbands to make a good catch. It's a major headache for us. This small piece of fish on the oven costs 80 to 85. It's not up to standard, but that's the current price. When we take it to market, we don't make any profit.
A visit to the Keta Central Market, once teeming with assorted fish, now reveals a hopeless situation. Low fish availability has driven up costs, making affordability a Herculean challenge.
About 5 years ago, this one, the crab that you are seeing here, is just 2 cedis, but now it's 10 cedis. Because the fishermen are saying it's because of the rising sea level. That's why the things are like this, because the sea is destroying a lot of things, their homes and their canoes, so that's why they've increased the price for us.
Apart from fishing, farming is also a major source of livelihood for many residents here in the Keta municipality. However, the rising levels of the sea due to climate change is equally affecting farmers. Mr. Amakuji is one such farmer here in the Keta municipality.
If the climate change or the sea level on high, it will affect us. If you come plus the bed for us, and then this thing, the crop we plant it for the bed, the water come spoil it. When we spend a lot of money.
That's the seaside.
That's the seaside.
How about the lagoon side?
Lagoon side is also the same thing. The lagoon come inside the bed. So all the tomatoes and the shallot we plant there, we also blast it.
So the devastating impact of the rising levels of the sea is biting hard on residents here in Keta. Reporting from Keta, in the Volta region. My name is Carlos Caloni for Joy News.
Climate Focus.
Well, that's it for our Climate Focus series, and we took you to Keta, where they're facing an existential environmental crisis. But let's elaborate this conversation and see how climate change is affecting these coastal dwellers. Our guest this morning is Sylvia Hagan. She's a PhD candidate at the Department of Psychology at the University of Ghana, and she's also a licensed psychologist and climate mental health researcher. Sylvia Hagan, thank you for joining the conversation. You'd have to unmute, Sylvia, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Thank you for joining the conversation. So what we want to find out is how the threat of losing one's home and livelihood to climate-related events, such as that erosion we are seeing in Keta's shoreline, typically affects the mental health of these coastal dwellers.
So the issue goes beyond just the physical distractions. So they've lost their lives, they've lost their homes, but it goes beyond that, affecting their way of life, affecting their peace of mind. So most of these residents experience persistent worry about the future because they don't have the financial resources and also the social resources to start life again. So they don't have that money to move to another place, and they have lived in their place for a very long time. So have that bond with that place. So living there and also starting life again and not having enough financial resources cause them to worry and makes them to think that there's no hope, there's no future. What do they have to do? So this causes them to have something that we call climate anxiety. That is, if they experience fear and uncertainty about the future, and even uncertainty about how their descendants are going to live. And so this is not just an environmental problem, but also a psychological problem that requires immediate attention. And we also have to look at it from that perspective.
This uncertainty you speak about, does that fall into the category of climate anxiety? And can you explain what climate anxiety really is and how it might be affecting the residents of Keta in particular?
So the issue of climate anxiety is mainly about the residents having fear of the future, their own future and that of their descendants. So they don't know what's going to happen to them, or they don't even know if this incident is going to happen to them again. So that uncertainty and that fear that they have about the future and about the incident happening again, and about how their descendants are also going to live, is what is mainly referred to as climate anxiety.
What coping mechanisms then can be recommended for these individuals whose lives might be completely eroded? And the statistic says about 5,000 homes might be completely washed off. What coping mechanisms can be recommended for these coastal dwellers?
So the coping mechanisms I can recommend are very multifaceted. So it requires a lot of stakeholders to come together. So we can provide mental health support. We can also provide community and social support. We can also provide financial support. But in terms of the mental health support, one thing that we can do for the people who have been displaced is to encourage them to be very mindful. That is, they have to be aware of the present and not think about the past, nor worry about the future. So they have to live in the present. And another thing too is to encourage them to have positive thoughts. So an example is when we are talking to them, we talk to them about the fact that it is true they've lost their lives and properties and their homes, but they should see hope in the fact that they are still alive. And if they have a life, there's hope. So if we encourage them in that perspective, it builds that sense of hope and reduces the stress of hopelessness and helplessness. And with that, we believe that it will help reduce their stress level. Sometimes we also encourage them to engage in spiritual practices like praying and meditation. And when they do that, they intend to have that sense of hope that things will be better because they have that spiritual connection with their experience with God.
Right.
So these are some of the coping mechanisms I can talk about.
But Sylvia, well, you are a climate mental health researcher. From your experience, are there some specific strategies or programs that have proven effective in helping these communities like Keta to build resilience against the ongoing threats of climate change and the impact it has on their lives?
Okay, so one particular intervention I can talk about is in relation to collaborating with other stakeholders.
Right.
Because the issue is multifaceted in such a way that we can't only do it as psychologists. The government can't do it alone, nor urban planners or environmentalists. So that we have to come together to have a comprehensive plan about building a sea defense and also planting trees along the coast. And when we do that, we are killing. And when we do that, we are fighting the sea with nature. So we are not just only planting the trees. We are also doing the sea defense. So we are doing it together. And when that happens, the trees will help reduce stress levels because trees are very good to reduce stress.
You mentioned that.
At the same time, the trees will help reduce the flood. And the defense will also help reduce the tidal wave. So the urban planners will help us do all this together. And it will help to reduce both the physical and the mental health aspect of these residents. That is on a long term.
And you said that, I mean, which is right, Sylvia, that it's not just, you know, a problem for the environmentalists or the climate, mental health researchers. So looking at the broader picture, how can mental health research workers alongside environmentalists and policymakers all work together to address the psychological aspects of these, the impact of climate change in vulnerable communities? And that's my final bit to you.
Okay, so what we can do is to advocate for mental health. To advocate for mental health is to be part of climate change adaptation policies because we know that now the issues are not only environmental but also psychological. So we can also talk about psychological resilience trainings and programs such as stress management and emotional resilience so that can help these people who have been affected.
Right.
It also prevents child parents.
Sylvia Hagan is a licensed psychologist and climate mental health researcher, and she's also a PhD candidate at the Department of Psychology at the University of Ghana. Sylvia, thank you so much for helping shed light on the psychological aspect of this, the impact of climate change on coastal dwellers. Right, before we go, get ready for the Pastors Kids Conference 2024 Legacy Edition. Are you a child of a pastor, preacher, or Christian minister? You are not alone. Join other pastors' kids from all denominations for the Pastors Kids Conference 2024 under the theme Legacy. The host is Apostle Francis Ajinasari and it's coming off on the 24th of August 2024, of course, at the Perez Dome at Jolu Junction here in Accra. And it starts at 9 a.m. prompt. There will be song ministration by Kofi Owusu Pepra, Inyonyam, Mrs. Ella Ajinasari, PKC Choir, and others. And it is absolutely free. And it would be an exciting time for networking, music, learning, and empowerment. You don't want to miss it. Registration or calling for more information, here are their phone lines, 05500 68632. Remember, it is absolutely free. Pastors Kids Conference 2024, the Legacy Edition. We'll see you soon. There's still more coming your way on the AM show. There's that conversation with that icon you like to hear about. And then we also tell you some things that the NCCE is working on. Stick and stay. We'll be right back.
Now imagine if only half of the members of parliament would pick up an issue of corruption and follow it through and publish it on both sides of the house. So whatever anybody has done, whether it's in your party or some other party, so we can take the plunderers, the selfish, the greedy, and the imbeciles out of the system, we will have better governance. And then there's the presidency, the appointing authority. Now, interestingly, the ministers are no longer part of the legislature. And you know why? Because once you are appointed as a minister, you serve at the pleasure and direction of the president. That is not what an MP does. And that is why I think this whole idea of selecting your ministers from parliament is an issue. So people are dancing so they can catch the eye of the president so they can be made a minister. And once they're made a minister, they lose their ability to criticize any thievery in government. Show me any minister who has criticized thievery whilst their government was in power.
Welcome back on the AM show. We get into that conversation with the king himself, Kwasi Kyei Darkwah, and he joins us this morning. He's a man of many things. He wears many hats, and you know, when he comes around, there's a lot of hard talk that we have. And he's a patriot as well. He joins me on the conversation. Memoachi, thanks for joining us.
What you're saying.
Is that a porcupine on your finger this morning?
Asante kotoko ukuma pimwa apimbeba. That is
okay.
The Asante kingdom. Many peoples have come together to form one collective. And if you touch one, you touch all of them. I speak not of Asante Mai this morning. I speak of Ghana, my motherland. 6 major ethnic groups, plus their many subsets, were unified by someone who sought to lead a country called Ghana. And together we must stand as one, or we must fall individually like little skinny sticks of the broom.
The last time we had a conversation, there was a lot to chew on in terms of different dynamics in government, our governance structures, policy, and to some extent, the duplicity of some of our political leaders. But today we're going to have a conversation focused more on lies and greed, the politics of lies and greed, and what they are bringing to the fore. But every time you come, I do try to find out from you, between the last time and now, what are some of the things you've observed out there in respect of our motherland, Ghana?
There is so much hunger that people are selling their birthright for porridge like Esau and Jacob. There is so much desperation that young people who have the opportunity to educate themselves to gain skills and competencies will rather travel anywhere else and work as the lowliest laborers. There is so much pent-up anger, but so little courage for the wise amongst us to speak up. And there is so much arrogance in those we have elevated into positions of fleeting authority to serve us, that they thumb their noses at the public and don't give a hoot no matter what the people say. Every time taxes are introduced by any government, they introduce them for the betterment of the country. But if you're paying more taxes and you're receiving worse services, you must ask yourself, why am I paying these? Whether you're going to the hospital, whether you're going to buy an air ticket, whether you're going to buy yam in the market. Why have we put so many taxes on goods and services in this country, but we haven't improved service, especially from the public sector to the populace? It is very worrisome, very, very worrisome. And then you talked about duplicity, so beautiful. There's a book I read a while ago, Diplomacy and Duplicity, and the lies that the people that we ask to represent us at home and abroad tell, not just for the purpose of guarding state, but for the purpose of enriching themselves. really, really sad. And we have to think that we are citizens of a nation and we have given these people employment. Because the politician comes to seek employment just like the mortician or the electrician. But once you employ him, you must constantly look at what he is doing so that you hired him, you can also fire him. Individually, you may not be able to fire him, but collectively you can. And really, I want to call every Ghanaian to action. An educated, keenly interested, and well-informed citizenry abreast of community and national issues is crucial in holding leaders and politicians accountable for their words and actions. And I say leaders, and then I say politicians, because not all leaders are politicians, as you know, and not all politicians are leaders. It saddens me that you and I have to tell the young that our politicians lie a lot, some by commission and some by omission. What do we want to do about it?
What's the latest lie you've heard from the corridors of the powerful and the political? What's the latest one you've heard?
Too many, but at this point, taking any single one and stating it means giving their opponent an advantage because it's political season. So I will ask the viewers, publish the lies that you have heard from politicians. Put them on Joy News. Put them beneath this program as commentary. And let's start looking at it and saying, if people tell these lies for political advantage so they can get into power, should we maintain them if they don't also prosecute? Now, let me give you one of the oldest lies, rather. A dear friend of mine's father died, and before he died, he said he had a confession to make, and he needed to say this because it's burning his heart. This man was a great artist and cartoonist named Ganata. And he said he had been threatened on the point of actual bodily harm. In fact, gross bodily harm, to make a cartoon presenting Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah as somebody worshipping some gods called Kankai Nyame, to start with. It's either the nation is all so stupid or so gullible that we can believe that somebody who worships their god will call their own god a stinking god. So he made this cartoon. And that is how many Ghanaians started saying Kwame Nkrumah had a god called Kankai Nyame and was sacrificing people to him. But Ganata made this confession before he died, that he was threatened on point of gross bodily harm to make that cartoon. His son is alive. I spoke to his son just 2 weeks ago. And I said, do you know about this? He says, well, he knows about this from family, that his dad was threatened. So in the same way, there are people being threatened in public offices to do evil against the nation, just so the people who have appointed them can benefit. But the lies are many. Let's look at this government, President Akufo-Addo. People lied about him. Some said he didn't even go to law school. Well, if you don't go to law school and you serve an apprenticeship, you can still practice law.
Back then, when that was still possible.
Back then, when that was still possible.
That is no longer the case.
Yes.
But back then, when it was absolute.
So when people say that, you see, the lie is subtle. They make it look like he has received no training at all and has practiced. So that, whoever said it, lied. In the same way, people said, former President Mahama had hotels in Dubai. 7 years on, where are the people who said those things? They lied. And they used it to gain some advantage. They are still enjoying those advantages. But who is calling them to be responsible for the lies they told? So the Ghanaian populace cannot just sit back whilst people come and lie to gain power. And after they gain power, they go silent. We need to get to a point where, like the Welsh government has decided to do now, they are working on an act that will make it such that any politician who lies, public servant in high office who lies, is banned from public service for life. In Ghana, being banned from public service for life is not enough, because if they have stolen enough through their unethical deals, through their nepotism and cronyism, if you ban them, they still go home and live well. We must look at the possibility of enacting something on our law books so that those who lie in high office, those who lie in positions of public authority, actually go to jail.
Would that not be stretching it? I don't know where, yes, you talk about this Welsh bit. I'm yet to read about it, but people could inadvertently lie. There could be people who would say something on some front and not necessarily mean to deceive people. I mean, and even you would hear about the oddity of black lies and white lies and all of that. But wouldn't it be stretching it if
it is not
you were to say, oh, you have lied in public office, and so you deserve jail? People lie everywhere, every day.
The difference between the carpenter making one chair who lies is that he leaves nails to stick in the bums of everybody who sits on the chair. But the politician who lies takes away from an entire nation. Look, there are different professions. Like I said, there's the electrician, there's the mortician, there's the politician, there's the architect, there's the doctor, there's the nurse. People must choose the professions for which they have skills and competencies and also have the humanity to practice. Some people are intelligent, brilliant. They choose to play football. They don't choose to be an auditor. Because if you choose to be an auditor, you need to work in a situation where wherever you go, you ensure the control environment is as clean as the politics of Singapore. And if you can't do it, go into another profession. People are importers. People are drug dealers. People are TV producers. Choose the profession where you can practice. Don't go into the profession where you're going to harm people. Why is it that if a doctor does something egregious, the medical council can stop him from practicing as a doctor? But a politician does something egregious, he can continue. And even if he has stolen in a previous government, when the government he serves or the party he serves comes back, he gets yet another position again. There are some over 31 million people in Ghana. If one of you is a liar, which eventually leads to thievery, because all deceit leads to greater and worse things, and you know that this person has lied, just because they have come to say, I'm sorry, it's not enough. Accept their apology, but don't let them lead any public office again. Unless they are leading the desilting of gutters and taking out the dirt from, waterways, under the keen supervision of a no-nonsense brigadier.
Now, if you look at our law books, there's no such thing as suffering a jail term for lying. In fact, for every crime, there must be a commensurate punishment. And it must be stipulated in the law what exactly the crime is. There's nothing like that.
This is what I'm advocating for.
I agree. But I am saying, legislating on something like this, that if you are in political office and you lie, and some may say this is quite a stretch. If you look at a society like Japan, there are certain things, and I may add South Korea, unfortunately, some people have taken their own lives on the back of certain happenings. The reason being shame.
It's the culture.
Shame.
It's the culture.
Stigma.
It's the culture.
You can call it the culture. Is that not what we ought to tackle? Such that we create a society where if you do X, Y, Z, you have named and shamed yourself. It's not about going to jail or facing any punishment or something of the sort. Shouldn't we? Is that not what our focus should be? Rather than say we're going to legislate so that if you are found to have told a lie, how will we even determine that? It's a very gray area.
It will always be the wise proposing something for providence, and the nation discussing it and saying, if we want our politics to be clean, if we want our leadership to be up and doing, we must expect better character from them than the people they serve, because the people will take a cue from them. Can you imagine if the leaders in every office in Ghana were neat and tidy and ensured that no dirt was thrown around? How easy it would be for them to ensure that those who throw dirt around would be punished? But if they themselves are filthy and squalid, how are they going to be in a place where they can call other people to order? Let's think about this. We cannot expect our leadership to be worse than the public. And for the purpose of this discussion, I know some people
leadership must set the example.
I know some people, the fish rots from the head. I know some people who accept that they are no good, who will start by saying, oh, but the leaders come from the people, so the leaders will be as bad as the people. Not true. The leaders come from the people, but the leaders must be the best elements of the people in skills and competencies, as well as in truth-telling and character. It's important because our difficulty in Ghana, the biggest difficulty in Ghana today is corruption. And all corruption starts with a lie, followed by nepotism, cronyism, before that, greed. But if we cannot tackle the lies and greed in our politics, nothing is going to change. People lie for personal benefit. There's so many reasons why people lie. People lie to cover themselves. People sometimes leave important stuff out. They won't tell you the full story. That itself too is a lie. So how long do we want to suffer this in Ghana? In your family, you're raising your children not to lie, to be true to themselves and to speak the truth about who they are and what they do. End of story. If you're raising your children as such, aren't you raising great leaders for the future? Because they are true to who they are and they are true and capable of speaking truth about what they do. But we have people lying and benefiting from the lies. And we are sitting there, still twiddling our thumbs, still tickling our armpits and laughing, and waiting for who to come and fix it. Now, I say, if this were to go to Parliament, anybody in Parliament that knows he's a liar will not vote for it. That's the fact. If you know you're a liar and you know that you have benefited from lies, there is no way you're going to vote for something like this.
In other words, you're admitting that this proposal of yours will never see the light of day.
Are you saying that most of the people in Parliament are liars? Because that's implicitly what you've just stated.
Well, I am saying that we know very well how politics is played in our part of the world.
No, I don't
say that.
I don't believe that all the people in Parliament are liars.
To say that those members of Parliament will pass such a legislation, which likely would indict them, is not going to happen.
If you know you are here to do good for the people of Ghana, you will enact laws that will help the people of Ghana.
This will
it will stop you. It will stop you, the leaders, from being lying individuals, from being thieves, and all the thievery starts with lies.
Let me tell you, have you thought through the legal arrangements that would be required to get something like this, through? I mean,
the whole world,
what do you think? I don't know what example
the whole world will
have.
come to this someday, because you see, you are standing in a place where you think the status quo is okay. Are you happy with the status quo?
I'm not saying the status quo is okay.
No, but you are accepting.
But I'm saying there are other ways of going about the status quo. Look at, I've mentioned Japan and South Korea. Look at a society like Norway.
We can always look at other societies for inspiration.
Look at how they've managed
We must
themselves.
look at ourselves.
You don't need a law like this, do you?
You do.
Really?
You do. Every nation is governed by laws.
So tell me, how
Every nation is governed by laws.
How do you mean? I mean, if
you cannot marry somebody who is under 18.
If you want this
that's
to
our
go
law.
forward, so let me ask you, what shape, what form do you think a law like this will take upon your reflection? How do you think a law like this will get legs to stand on its feet? What would be your thinking?
Essentially, what are laws for? Laws are there to safeguard the humans in whatever protectorate that those laws are made for. And also to let people understand that if you fall short of this law, you fall foul of this law, this is the punishment you get. So laws help people stay away from doing whatever the society considers egregious. So we look at our society. What is the worst problem in Ghana other than corruption? And all corruption starts with a lie. And we are sitting down, just dancing around the issues every day. Political season. Watch the number of lies that are going to be told about each other. So, when was the last political season? It was Nanado and Mahama. Where are all the people who are showing us the records and the pictures and the documents, as Okudzeto Ablakwa is doing, of the hotels that Mahama bought? But they have reaped the benefit of those lies, and we are still watching them. Are they fit to lead? You are a liar.
They've gone through elections and people have voted for them.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Voted based on lies. That's what I'm talking about. So for the next election, let us let every politician know, if you tell a lie, you will be banned from all public service. Right? Now, some will say, oh, if I tell a lie that I got home at 8 when I actually got home at 7. I mean, anybody who makes that argument is just plain stupid. Egregious lies where you are using it to put another down for benefit for yourself or benefit for your cabal.
Yeah, but someone will say where you draw the line, and
where we draw the line,
we see between opacity and
where we draw the line else. Will be in
what you may see so clearly, someone may say, and that's
why we have a parliament.
KKD, wait, that's the bit, because when it comes to the law, that is why you can't test, for example, spiritual matters. Oh, someone is a witch.
This is not spiritual matters.
Relax. That's why I'm telling you that for the sake of...
You are extrapolating too far from the point.
Ambiguity, the least ambiguity in law will not stand. You know that.
We have to test this in Parliament. We need to stop the lies. Bryce Simmons speaks. I don't hear him lie. I see leadership in that young man from Presec Legon. There are people in Parliament who speak, who choose not to tell lies.
Can you name any of them? Have you seen any of our politicians that
I'm not here to promote...
No, but as we speak about the other side, we might as well speak about those who are doing the right thing.
Can you go on and
setting an example?
And read what comments people have put there? Because I'm not here to give anybody any political advantage. My point is, CPP, NPP, NDC, GCPP, can we all come together and accept that to be a leader, you should not trade in lies? And if you trade in lies, we're not just going to forgive and forget. We will stop you from holding any public office henceforth. That will let people be conscientious and will let people be more humane and let people be more truthful. We cannot have a country where we accept that the leadership is full of liars. That's a problem.
Is that what you see now?
You have said if it goes to Parliament, they won't approve. After I said the likelihood
of approval.
But you have said so. So don't ask me the question. You have answered the question.
No, but the leadership is not just Parliament. I'm asking
No. Everywhere.
Look at the swathes of our leadership.
Do you expect the judiciary to have liars amongst them? Do you have the presidency to be staffed by liars? In fact, the Fourth Estate as well. Because sometimes people with a little more money than those who are working in the Fourth Estate use them as their tools to lie about people seeking to lead the nation. So media people also tell some political lies. So let's start somewhere. The fish rots from the head. Let's start from the very top and gradually come down.
Where the very top is what?
The very top is the presidency.
Okay.
From there, we're going to judiciary and legislature. Why should you be there, protected by the public purse, giving you all the perks you need, and at certain levels of being a judge, you go home on pension with your highest ever salary and still lie? Why are you lying? Why do people lie? Now, if we want to go to why people lie, then it becomes even clearer why we must ensure that people do not get into a position where if we know they are liars, we let them stay there. Why? Our big problem in Ghana is corruption. Look, at the time when we said we don't have money for the renal unit of Kolebu, somebody was signing, ordering for an emergency check to be paid to the president's daughter or the person with whom the president's daughter exchanges bodily fluids to go and service ambulances, let's stay with the lie.
Hold there. It wasn't for the president's daughter, and we don't know whether she exchanges It wasn't for the president's
How do you have a
daughter,
child with somebody without exchange your bodily
and
fluids?
we don't know whether
Are
currently...
you an MPP communicator
whether
now?
currently
So my
exchanges bodily fluids.
But listen to me.
That is out of this context.
But listen to me. So at the time when you don't have money for the renal unit, what lie caused government to say people may die, but this payment is so important that we must make this payment?
That we can look at.
What lie caused that? Because all these things, everything we do is based on narratives. And if the narrative is a narrative of untruth, then we are not headed for peace and prosperity. Right. The lies in Ghana must not be about the lies of the foot soldier. It must be the lies of those in leadership. For if those in leadership can be truthful, they can check their foot soldiers.
All right. I want us to talk about greed, but basically then what you're saying is lying through one's teeth, pathological lying, especially by those in leadership, should be front and center conversation if we want to deal with the entire nation. If we want to deal with greed, corruption, and all its concomitant effects. But let's talk about greed itself. I mean, just this morning in one of the papers, unfortunately, I don't have the newspaper here, but it was talking about the man you mentioned, Bright Simmons. I've followed his posts on many things, and he talks about, is it the RGGR or something of the sort, the Royal Gold, the new gold refinery that we have. And the fact that for him, he feels it is just another backdoor route for the Ejapa deal, if you remember what that was. Let's talk about greed in governance. Some will say that everywhere you go, well, there may be some pilfering here and there depending on what society you are in. And perhaps the 11th commandment, don't get caught. But in our jurisdiction, some feel this has been taken to levels unparalleled and seen before and harnessed and bridled. How do we tackle greed?
We tackle greed by starting with the liars. You see, you talk about Ijapa. If you've read what Ijapa was proposing, and how we're going to hold all our mineral resources in something where we can use it to go and borrow for Ghana, the narrative itself is one of falsehood. And that is where all the problems begin. The problems begin with a lie to an electorate that is partly illiterate or partly unconcerned, or an electorate that is wise and very well educated, but is part of those plundering, so will not speak, or an electorate that is so hopeless, they've been bludgeoned into misery, so they don't even have the energy to speak because they are focusing on getting a little money to buy their food or their medicine. As one man I gave money the other day said, gave him money to go get himself some food. He says, "Rah, I can't even be to Edro." And I said, "That thing." He says, "Me what diabetes, me did be a me Edro." And he said, "To the beer, I have to choose between buying food or medicine." The truth is, some people in leadership are honest and dignified, but others are liars and must be kicked out of serving in any public office. How do we start it? We can't just sit there and pretend that all is kosher. How do we start it? You see, one elder statesman wrote to me and he says, "Kwasi, thank you for the work you're doing. Sometimes you get very angry. Be careful, it might give you high blood pressure." And I said, those who love hurt the more. If you love the country you're from, if you love this country, Ghana, and you see anybody harming the country, it will disturb you. And that's why I have great respect for Bright Simmons. Not only him, there are so many others who are writing and speaking up for Ghana in civil society and so many other, groups and even journalists too. But we need to speak, we need to let lying, greed, corruption be front and center of the agenda setting of the media in Ghana for at least the next 3 months, to sensitize every citizen that when you are appointed a leader, lying is a no-no. And if you're caught lying, you're banned from public office for the rest of your life.
Okay, so we have to conclude on the matter of greed, but as you keep on talking about lies, you know what just came to mind? The president in recent times at that forum talking about misinformation, disinformation, essentially lies. I don't know whether you followed that conversation, because he even pointed to the media and others, misinformation and disinformation. But we see the political actors do it perhaps more than any other.
See, if I were to list names, I would have plenty. But like I said, today I am not playing to any political party's benefit. Let us look at every lie every politician has told. And let us look at the possibility of ensuring that they cannot hold any public office ever again. So in the Kufuor era, somebody who was at the PPA doing egregious harm to Ghana, Nana Addo becomes president, and Nana Addo appoints him. Why? So in the Mahama era, some people, maybe Abu Kapeli did wrong and went to jail. So if somebody in Mahama's tradition comes, Abu Kapeli will be appointed again? Why are we doing this to ourselves? Let us assume that only 10% of Ghanaians have any wisdom. That will be more than 3 million people. Out of 3 million people, you cannot find replacements for the people among you who are liars and thieves and nepotistic. What the Welsh government is talking about is a necessity for all nations. Interestingly, I discussed it with an elder statesman who told me that, Kwasi, when I was young and used to work in the mines before coming to lead those mines, if somebody called your father a dealer, it was so shameful. If you went to school, no matter how much money you had, you hid your face in the sand. We're getting to the point where we reward liars and thieves. We're getting to the point where we praise liars and thieves. We're getting to the point where we cannot tell how people made their income and their property.
So that's where we have to be looking.
Let's look at the lies. It is the lie. All these come down to the lie. All corruption comes down to the lie. All greed comes down to the lie. Because all you need to do is to find a narrative that will get the population comatose. So the population is asleep. They believe you. They trust you. Then you lie to them and you get away with murder. So you say, oh, we're doing something to help the people of Ghana. But behind it, there's the lie of your own people that are milking the country dry. We need to find a way to ensure liars are not in our presidency, in our legislature, in our judiciary, and then gradually in our media. Very important.
What would be your parting words for us, especially as you are addressing, I want to believe, the liars and thieves? What would be your message to them and to the Ghanaians who are watching you this morning, and maybe people from different jurisdictions, as often happens? Final words.
Look at the politician you want to vote for. And know that politicians may lie or engage in deceptive behavior for various reasons, including self-interest, to maintain power, gain political advantage, or protect their turf or reputation if they have any at all. And then strategic communication to achieve a desired outcome, cunningly and deceitfully shape public opinion or influence decision-making. For fear and insecurity, to avoid accountability and criticism. For partisan politics, to advance their party's agenda, even if it means misrepresenting facts to harm our motherland Ghana. For lack of accountability, believing they can avoid consequences or scrutiny. Look at every person you want to vote for, no matter what party colors they wear. For if you only vote based on the party you belong to, you are still in a state of imbecility. Let us look for people who are honest, who are truthful, who are competent, and who are courageous to serve in all our public offices, and Ghana will be better for us all.
Before you go, though, an interesting thought that came to my mind. As we talk about lies and all that, I mean, some people would say that back then, if you swore by a certain lesser god or something, you knew that if you did the wrong thing, it would, strike you down. Should we also be targeting our churches, our mosques, where the adherents of traditional African religion go to? Should we be targeting those? Isn't that a failure from there as well?
No, we have to start somewhere. I listened to a sermon recently where a pastor was preaching and he used wise in place of shrewd. And I sat quietly, and then I showed the wise and shrewd definitions to a lady who was sat next to me. And she says, I think he's talking about shrewdness, not wisdom. They also may make mistakes. They are human. All humans may err. But the lies that you repeat over and over again are consciously, maliciously told lies for personal advantage. Now, in a book by American political scientist and international relations scholar,
we have to go.
John Joseph
that final point.
Mershemeyer, he says, why leaders lie, the truth about lying in international politics. And he concluded that it is easier for leaders to lie to their own people because there is usually a good deal of trust between them. He suggests that most political lies fall into one of 5 categories: interstate lies, fear-mongering, strategic cover-up, national myths, and liberal lies. So every citizen of Ghana, whosoever you love, whosoever you hate, before you trust, please verify. Let the lies stop. If not, this country is going down. End of story.
Well, that's a famous quote right there. Trust, but verify. And the man himself, KKD, the king, has joined us one more time. Kwasi Kyei Darkwah, for this conversation on politics of lies and greed, as he puts it. Yadase.
Actually, I'm going to a dance. I'm going to spend a week with my dad. You know, from time to time, I go and sit with him and listen to his stories, because I don't want to be one of those people who fly to Ghana only to have a funeral when a relative dies. Right. Whilst they are alive, sit with them, learn from them, celebrate them, and honor them.
Positive step, most definitely. Thank you so much for passing through. We'll be right back on the AM show with a lot more. But let me tell you a bit about Dan's World Services. If you're stressed out about all your cleaning needs, worry no more. Dan's World Services is your one-stop shop that meets all your commercial and residential cleaning needs, from pest control, janitorial and house cleaning services, event cleaning, and waste management, as well as carpet and sofa cleaning as well. Whether you're at home or at work, we understand and know how haptic cleaning can be coupled with your busy lifestyle. And we've got great news for you. Dan's World Environmental and Facility Management Services has got you completely covered. Guess what? We excel in whatever we do, leaving you beyond your wildest expectations. I'm sure your curiosity has been piqued. Where do you find us? Excel House, opposite the Regimanuel Estate, Nungwa Barrier, or you can reach us on 0302 905 538 or 0555 752 361. Dan's World Services, beyond expectation. Well, when we return after the break, we'll take you beyond your expectations. Stay with us.
Welcome back on the AM show. Let's talk about the cylinder recirculation model. It's a model of distributing LPG in a safer way. But to join me in the studio to have a conversation on that is Obed Crane Boachi, the head for gas commercial regulation at MPA, and Mohammed Abdul Kudus, no, not your Kudus, you know, and he's head of communications also at the NPA. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
We've heard about cylinder recirculation model over and over again because there are ads all over the place. And the message is that it's a safer way of distributing LPG. But you tell us, what this is really about and what gave rise to it? I'll start with you, Mr. Boachi.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for having us on your program this morning. So the cylinder recirculation model, as you rightfully mentioned, is a model of distribution of LPG, particularly when it comes to household use. And so somewhere in the year 2013, the Ministry of Energy was promoting LPG. And we sought to incentivize the service providers to bring filling stations into peri-urban and rural areas. So what we did was we distributed cylinders and stoves in rural areas to whip up the appetite for LPGMCs to then go in there and set up refilling stations. But then we realized that this was not done, setting up of the filling stations was not done. And so when the consumers finished using the cylinders, because of the long distances to refilling, they stopped using the cylinders. And so we decided to start thinking of how we could bring LPG to consumers without having to dole out huge sums of money to invest in cylinder refilling stations. And so we looked around, and then we chanced on the cylinder recirculation model just across the border in Abidjan, Ivory Coast. That's what they do. In fact, it is being done in several countries. In Brazil, India has about 99% penetration through the cylinder recirculation model. And so we looked around, and we thought the cylinder recirculation model was something we could look at. And so from 2013, we started to prepare a policy that will seek to improve the distribution of LPG in Ghana. We prepared the policy, and then way down the line in around 2017, we got approval from Cabinet to implement the policy. If you remember, or if you would recall, that was when the atomic incident happened. So most people think it was the atomic incident that led to the CRM. But then the policy had been in preparation all this while. And we were preparing the policy in partnership with all the relevant stakeholders, that is the LPG marketing companies, the Chamber of Bulk Petroleum Suppliers, as well as the transporters and all the other key stakeholders in the industry. And so when Cabinet give us the directive, give the MP the directive to implement the CRM, they also tasked us to set up an implementation committee that included all the relevant stakeholders. And that's exactly what we did. So we came up with an implementation committee that had the LPG Marketing Association on the committee. We had the bulk distribution companies on the committee. The Association of Oil Marketing Companies was on the committee. The transporters were on the committee. We had civil society organizations such as Imani Ghana, also represented on the committee, members of parliament. In fact, it was a broad committee of all relevant stakeholders. And so all of these stakeholders came together, and we prepared the framework in the sense of how we wanted to implement the cylinder recirculation model in Ghana, considering we have service providers already and we have existing infrastructure already. So that's what we did in coming up with the framework of how we wanted to go about this.
In this framework, does the implementation affect the already existing service providers? In
fact, implementation has to be based or has to be done through the existing service providers. So what we did, for instance, was look at the existing infrastructure and see how we could utilize the existing infrastructure and also the existing service providers. So somewhere down the line in 2019, 2020, we started piloting the cylinder recirculation model. Although bottling plants are key in implementing the cylinder recirculation model, we didn't have bottling plants at that time. We just had one, and we didn't want to create a monopoly, so it was not operating. So what we did was we utilized the existing refilling stations to mimic the role of the bottling plant. And so I remember we piloted it in Keta, for instance, where we had some filling stations. For instance, there was a Trinity gas station where the NPA procured cylinders because the LPG marketing companies expressed that they were not able to buy cylinders. Under that model, under the CRM model, one key thing is that the consumer does not own the cylinder. The cylinder is either owned by the LPG marketing company.
Yeah, some of the pictures are actually rolling on your screens right now.
Good.
So then let's talk about costs and benefits. And let me come to you, Mr. Kudus. What is the cost to the consumer? What is the benefit to these service providers who already exist and who you say you're working through? You're implementing this strategy through them. Talk to me about cost and benefits then.
Okay, so let me start with costs. It does not actually come with any additional cost. For many people, they were thinking that because there would be other layers to the already existing structure. For example, the inclusion of the bottling plants, then the cylinder manufacturing companies, because the structure as it pertains within the downstream is that for every layer that is in a certain structure of a service rendering, there would be a margin to cater for the kind of investment that that particular layer is actually providing. So take for example, the fuel stations that we go to fill our vehicles from. The dealer has a margin inbuilt into the price build-up. The marketing company who supplies the product to the dealer has a margin. So at any time a structure is introduced into the already existing structure, a margin is automatically introduced to cater for the investment that you have actually put in there. So for many people, because the new structure is going to come with the bottling plant and the cylinder manufacturing companies, and knowing that they would have a certain component of margin as a measure of having their return on their investment, people were anticipating that there would be a rise in their costs, but obviously not at all. We've actually been very innovative in the introduction of it to make sure that there is no additional cost, because we all know
the team or the state is actually absorbing whatever extra cost might, come up in the implementation of this policy.
Not necessarily. So the previous ways of importing LPG into the country is to give license to the PSPs who want to go and bring them to bring. But then we realized that, okay, there's a certain advantage to economy of scale. If we're able to aggregate the needs of each BDC, for example, and then put it to auction, to allow one person to go and bring it. Certainly, if I were to go somewhere to go and bring a product, I probably would have a certain advantage if I'm buying it in bulk than to fragment it, you understand? So that particular innovative activity gave us a reduction in the premium. So in some instance, we had as high as $70, okay, reduction from $100 initially that you pay as a premium, okay? So that helped us in compensating for the addition that we brought on board relative to the activity of the bottling plant and the cylinder manufacturing company. So that's why we've not seen a transfer of a certain cost to the consumer. So there's no additional cost to the consumer at all. The structure remains the same.
That sounds like good news to consumers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So aside that and the safety issues, that this is bringing aboard, why should citizens, consumers, actually patronize the cylinder recirculation model? I'll give you each a minute to speak to us directly. Why our audience, Ghanaian citizens, should actually patronize or should get on board with the cylinder recirculation?
So the critical one you've actually raised is the issue of safety.
Right.
For many people, it is a barrier to their willingness to use LPG as a method of cooking in their homes because of the related accidents that are reported every now and then. And so cylinder recirculation is coming with a certain factor that reduces significantly the possibility of the accident. The reason for the accident a lot of the time is when the gas is able to escape from the cylinder. Okay, and study has shown that the reason for which the gas is able to escape a lot of the time is because of the faulty nature of the valve that is in the cylinder. And cylinder recirculation model actually takes care of this, because ordinarily the consumer would have to regularly change it anytime you go to fill.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes, regularly.
That's what happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you, and I've said this thing elsewhere, and I want to repeat it, because if you go abroad, okay, the population that uses LPG is almost about 9 out of 10. Okay. When you come to our part of the country, it's about 3 out of 10. Yet we have more of the accidents than they do. Why? It's because of safety mechanisms that we do not probably pay a lot of attention to. Okay, and that is why CRM is going to help in addressing. With CRM, the valve would be changed irregularly, not at a cost to the consumer, but at a cost to the marketer.
Thank you for that. It's enlightening. Yeah. Mr. Watch, what would you add to that? In a minute, make it brief for me. We have to go in a minute.
So, convenience. I mentioned earlier that with the CRM, now you do not have to set a refilling station in a community, for instance, in a village, before you can bring LPG to them. There are teachers, there are nurses, there are people who are in these villages or these areas that can afford LPG. But because of the magnitude of the cost of setting up a refilling station, we don't have them in these places. Yeah. But with CRM, by just placing a cage, which is not expensive, you can bring a few cylinders there for people there to also access LPG and use. And even in our cities, you usually find people carrying cylinders going 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers more, or sometimes putting it in the taxi to go and fill cylinders to bring it home. And at the CRM, the cylinder exchange points will be all around us. In the supermarket, you can find a cylinder exchange point. At the fuel station, you can find a supermarket. In your community, at a convenience shop, once the MPA inspects and finds that location safe to place a cage, you can have a cage there just behind your house. And so when you're cooking and you run out of gas, at a short distance, you can just walk and get gas without having to travel long distances. So it will bring a lot of convenience to consumers as well. Convenience,
safety, some freebies in there for you. That is a cylinder recirculation model. Thank you so much for shedding more light on this, Mr. Obed Crane Boache, Head for Gas Commercial Regulation, and Mohammed Abdul Kudus, also Head of Communications, both from the NPA. Thank you for joining us for breakfast.
Thank you.
Well, there's still more coming your way on the AM show. There's a conversation with NCCE. You want to stay for that. I'll be right back. is election year after all. Let's talk about, electioneering activities and what the NCCE has been up to. In the studio with me this morning is the chairperson of the NCCE, or the NCCE boss, Madam Kathleen Nadi. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Yes, it is. It's always a pleasure to have you on, especially this year.
Something
I picked from the conversation you had with Benjamin, I think a few months ago, that politicians think in 4 years. It just stuck with me because I think that's the reality we face now.
Reality, yes.
So in this 4th year for them that they're thinking, and we're seeing a lot of campaigning activities, what is the NCCE up to in terms of election this year?
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Yes, I said politicians think in 4-year cycles by default because their assessment is a 4-year cycle. So, once they're thinking in 4-year cycles, there are some outcomes, some intentional, some not so intentional. So for us, ours is to balance it out by creating a certain orientation for citizens to go beyond 4 years. I hope you understand what I'm saying. The citizens must have an expectation that is not just, okay, this is the election, this is the 4th year, is the election year, is the cocoa season, we are harvesting. You understand? The citizen must hold elected officials accountable throughout the 4 years. Don't wait for the 4th year and demand money for vote.
Unfortunately, for some of them, it's when they get to make some money from them.
But why are you making money from politicians? Is that the objective?
Yeah.
The politician is supposed to, the people you elect, do you understand? Because they are not politicians in a vacuum. They are elected. Yes. They are representatives. So you've elected them. Part of the job is to hold them accountable over the period and not wait for the 4th year and say, that's how I get money from them. You see, it's just it's an orientation thing. It's not because one is bad or the citizens are bad, but there's a certain mindset, I think, deficit because we need to understand that when you elect people today, from today, you are part of the system that holds them accountable right up until the 4th year when you get to they get to showcase what they've done, and they get to make a case for another 4 years, or they get to showcase what they can do for another 4 years. So that's where that thinking is from. So they think in 4-year cycles because they are assessed in that way. So it's not, it's kind of normal. We, the citizens, must think beyond. We should not wait for 4 years to do the assessment. The accountability element of being a good citizen must start from day one. The day you elect somebody to represent you, that is the day you begin to actively hold the person accountable and make sure that they deliver for you what they promised up until the 4th year. Then you get a chance to choose again.
So this orientation, I believe that's where the engagement for civic education clubs in senior high school come in. Tell me briefly what this is really about and what gave rise to it.
Okay, thank you very much. So the NCCE has different ways of working because the objective is to ensure that we engage with Ghanaian citizens wherever we find them. And majority of Ghanaians, young people, a lot of them are in schools. Now, there's a whole conversation about why the school curriculums don't have inbuilt civic education, active inbuilt civic education, but it's not a conversation that we can start and finish today. And frankly, we must be able to do, I am a strong believer in doing the best we can with what we have. So fortunately, the Commission has had a culture of building civic education clubs in schools across the country. And these are powerful tools because the club members are a channel through which we engage the other people in the school. When they hold their activities, other people participate. When they have their debates, their quizzes, other people participate. And so the Civic Education Club is an important part of the work that we do as NCCE. Currently, we have at least 5,000 clubs across the country and counting in secondary schools and in tertiary institutions as well.
5,000 combined or
yes.
5,000 each? You said you have about 5,000 clubs in both tertiary and
senior high schools. Yes, across the country.
All right.
What we are doing now is to reactivating the clubs because when COVID happened, like a lot of things, because the school calendar changed and then at the same time there was the free SHS that affected the way, there were changes. So it was not, running the clubs were a bit challenging. And then of course there were all the protocols about, you know, this and that. So a lot of the clubs sort of faded out a bit.
Okay.
We are revamping we are reviving the clubs.
And last Saturday, the Commission, together with the European Union, under the Women and Youth Democracy Project, organized an engagement with civic education club members in 10 senior high schools. Tell me a bit about that.
It wasn't an engagement, it was a civic festival. It was fabulous. It was really great. And so in terms of reviving the clubs, for me, the starting point was last year, December. In December last year, we revived one of the most vibrant, iconic clubs in the University of Ghana that had been down for a couple of years due to all the things I spoke about. And for me, that was the launch pad. This year, through the Civic Festival, we have reactivated 10 civic education clubs in the schools in the Greater Accra region. So there were 10 schools there. Please, if I forget to...
Yes, I know that's Presec, Legon, Achimota Senior High School, Accra Academy, Laboni Senior High School, Accra Girls, St. Mary Senior High School, Accra High School, St. Thomas Aquinas, Forces Senior High School, and Odogono Senior High School. And it was what? And a blend of education and entertainment. And you call it a festival.
It's a festival because as communicators, as development communicators, as people who do public education, we know that the best way to learn is not necessarily through looking at what you need to do in a book. That must be reinforced by things you see, things that stimulate you in different ways. So there's visual, there's action, there's thought processes, there's conversations, there's debates, all of those things. So this particular event for our 10 civic education clubs had components of all of these things. So first there was an art competition. So they were all asked to produce artwork. And the artwork and all the activities were based on the 4 thematic areas of education that NCCE is undertaking this year. So money in politics is one, religious tolerance is one, misinformation and fake news is the third one, and then the fourth one is violence and intemperate language in the election season. So all the activities were around these themes. And I wish that we had more time to actually look, because first we were asked to, each school was asked to produce an artwork that was a reflection of one of these themes. And you should have seen them. Because so then these young people have to sit down and think, which theme resonates with me? Which theme do I...
And those are some of the pictures we see on our screens now. Quite
so they and then they presented their pictures and indicated what the meaning was, why they picked those colors, you know, what the pictures mean, and
that looks like a drama. Were they enacting the play?
Yes. So after we did the art, then each school had a performance. Some was drama, right? A short play. Some schools, there was poetry. Oh, that's my nice picture.
That's a nice picture.
There was poetry, recitals. There was also dance. You should have seen. And even the dance was supposed to reflect the themes. So in the dancing, you see maybe depicting, you know, violence, or depicting living in peace, or depicting citizenship and all of that.
I just miss my high school days watching this. I was very active in debate clubs. I remember one debate I won, not alone, my debate club. And it was nationalization of one Ghanaian language holds the key to Ghana's quest for development. And it was such a powerful moment for us. And it was an NCCE debate.
Exactly. I love that testimony, so that people don't think I'm here making up stories.
I'm actually I can testify to that. So is that the message for this year, for the youth? These 4 angles. Money, violence, misinformation and fake news.
And religious tolerance.
Religious tolerance. Is that the message for how the youth can participate in this year's election and ensure that we are being free and fair? Is that the message from the youth?
It's a message for all Ghanaians. These, like I said, these thematic areas is the basis for all our public engagements and civic engagements this year. our actual theme for the year is that together we can build Ghana, so get involved. That is our theme for the year. So that was also an area where, as a school, you could choose to base your artwork and you know, and things around. So, so it's not just for young people, but of course, in this context, it was young people, you know, demonstrating their understanding of these things, because it's also important through the plays, through the, and there was a session, a pick and explain session, whereby, I mean, it was not rehearsed.
Okay.
So they will come and pick a statement from a basket and explain it the way they understand it. And you can tell that through the preparation for these things, with the themes and having to think through, they have gained an understanding of, you know, the implications or the consequences of these negative things crawling into. A lot of the pictures, by the way, were about money in politics and the negative effects on that. And that kind of surprised me, because I didn't think that that is what will grab their attention.
What was the highlight of it? What was the core underlining thing or theme or idea that ran through these enactments in terms of money in politics? Is it that politicians give money to buy votes?
Yes.
What was it?
It was about vote buying and its impacts on society. And how when people come and buy your votes, when you sell a vote, you are doing something that has a negative impact on your own future, you know. So that was the theme. And for some reason, because we did not insist that you do this or you do that, we just gave them the themes and asked them to pick. And many of them picked the money in politics. Some schools presented more than one picture.
Okay.
And even in presenting 2 or 3 pictures, they still had money in politics as one of the pictures they presented. And so here's this one talking about electoral violence.
Yeah.
That's my school, that's Ashmota School, talking about money in politics. Look at that picture.
Yeah.
And then also...
This is violence. You can see the...
Yes, this is... so these people were... so these were, you know, they were talking, sort of illustrating how their views about politicians, how politicians act. Some, you know, did the demonstration and the whole range of things. So there was drama, there was dance, but there was rap.
Oh.
There was excellent rap music.
I see why you called it a festival.
Yes.
It was like a celebration.
It was a celebration, but it was, these are the most powerful tools if you want people to learn things. If you want people to learn new behaviors, if you want people to behave in a different way, these are some of the things that you need to do on a regular, consistent basis. That's how you change behavior.
Right. We have a program, just turned 18.
Yes.
Critical voice of the youth who just turned 18, those who are first-time voters, right?
Yes.
And when you listen to the interaction with Lois Shola Deyemi, most of them come off as unpatriotic or don't want to even participate in the elections anymore because they don't see the essence. In your view, from all these engagements that you're having with young people, do you think the youth have patriotic values enough that they can contribute significantly to nation building?
Thank you. And this is one of the things I'm very passionate about. Nobody is born a good citizen. Nobody is born a patriot. Do you understand? Nobody is born loving Ghana automatically. You have to teach people these things. You have to invest in making sure people have that mindset. In the places where people have that mindset, it has been built into the culture through teaching. It's very simple. If you move away from that and you try and do it in any other way, you will always come back to it. You must teach people how to be the citizens that you want. Because you see, this republic will only be built by the right kind of citizen. And you must invest in building that citizen in order to build a republic. Otherwise, you're wasting a lot of money and time. Because you will go around in circles and you will come back to the same thing. You understand? I mean, we young people, of course, a lot of them are disillusioned. They feel that there's no hope, there's no opportunity, and so...
In fact, then there was that Afrobarometer report that says they think democracy has failed us and they are leaning more towards military intervention.
But that's also because they don't know what military intervention is. And one of the things, I am so grateful because we have come a long way as a country. Because if we have a generation of people who are living in a time when those who lived under military rule are still alive, yet we have managed to create a certain space where they don't even know what happened, right? It's not necessarily a good thing, but the point is that they are confident and bold compared to the previous generation to say that, no, we are insisting that things must go this way or that way. As for asking for military rule, it can only be done by people who have not seen and tasted military rule. And because we have a penchant for, you know, adjusting history, people don't actually know what happened. I always tell young people that, look, it is a difficult situation, but it's not a hopeless situation. Because this is not a hopeless country.
No, no.
You see what I mean? So it's important to, you know, but their concerns and their views and the issues that they're raising about how they feel about prospects for the future are important things that we cannot overlook. At the same time, it's also important that we invest in building the right mindset so that they will also be catalysts for change, you know, because the other thing is that democracy doesn't happen to you. You know, and the fruits of democracy don't just fall on your lap. And it is not promised anywhere that democracy is easy. It's not promised that it's once you declare democracy, everything will be fine. We all have to play the active roles defined. Okay, it's like a game. You set the rules and you all play. Everybody must play their part. Yes. And so my message to young people is always, it's not disengagement. It is actually engagement. You know, engage in the system. There are systems for holding leaders accountable. Use them. Go to your assembly. Ask questions.
But they're saying those systems failed us. But you are leading the charge of education, the civic
But how do you say a system has failed you when you've never engaged it? Ask them how many of them know the assembly.
Okay.
Ask, do you understand? So it's not a perfect system, far from it. I mean, it's not a perfect system. But let us use what we have. It's like always saying that we need new laws for this and that when we have existing laws that we have not even tested.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of model. So let's use what we have now, even as we strive, you understand, to do better things, to challenge ourselves more, to, you know, demand greater accountability. Let's use the systems that we have today.
You are leading this charge, education, young people. In fact, not just young people, all of us Ghanaians. Yes. How are they receiving the message, especially this year? Just 4 or 5 months, 4 months to election.
Right.
How are they receiving these messages? Do you think that from your engagement, they are hopeful that indeed a time will come when our woes will be turned around, these systems will work, the laws will be implemented, and then Ghana will be better for us all?
What's it going to take for that? How is that going to happen? We are in an election year, out there, given the opportunity to elect representatives and leaders. So how are we using the opportunity? How are we using the opportunity? Young people from the bulk of this year, there are, I think, almost 1 million new voters.
Yes.
Almost 1 million. All of them, most of them are young. We have 70% of the population under the age of 35. So they really have the power, you know. They really have the power, and it will be great to see.
They can actually tip the scales.
They can. It really boils down to them, you know. So it's about recognizing that power and using it properly, you know, and not falling into the same trap of the very things that you are complaining against, money in politics. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. Or following people for flashy cars, or for flex, or for swag, or those things. They have the opportunity now. It's never been like this. They have the opportunity now to actually go out there and bring us something. Yes,
right.
Yes.
Let's talk about our politicians and political parties. Of course, there are 2 major political parties right now. There's that bold solutions for the future from the camp of the NPP and trying to break the 8. Then there's the NDC saying building the Ghana we want. You've seen them touring around, promising a lot of things for change and all that. And of course, there's also, from the minority side, there's Alliance for Revolutionary Change, and they are promising a great transformational plan and so on and so forth. But in the middle of all this, politicians are waxing lyrical, making certain utterances, intemperate language being used. There's been attempts by the National Peace Council to call both parties to have a conversation. That has failed. Both of them didn't attend. How is the NCA receiving all this? NCCE, beg your pardon, receiving all this, observing this, and what's your plan to mediate, if I should say that?
Well, because you know something. Let me tell you something. It is the citizens who have the power. We always forget that. It is the citizens who have the power. Politicians don't just show up. We elect them. I keep saying we elect them. And we have the power to elect who we want. You see what I mean? So for me, one of the reasons why we have structured our work this year in terms of education around these thematic areas is that I want citizens to look at these things not just as discussions that we are having, but how do I utilize these things that I'm learning in making a decision about who gets elected? You know, because the biggest, the strongest motivation for a politician wants to stay in power, wants to win power. There's nothing wrong with it. And they will do what it takes. So what does it take? What it takes is what we tell them that it takes. Mm-hmm. No politician, knowing very well, for instance, that this group of people don't like this particular thing, will go there and talk about only that thing. And do you understand? There's a certain logical framework to all of this. So we also have to do our part to ensure that we punish them for things we don't like, and we reward them for the things that we actually like. You
but
see,
the climate, where we are right now,
mm-hmm.
with all these political parties
Yeah.
and politicians
Mm-hmm.
trying to convince us to vote for them,
Mhm.
we can only exhibit or exercise our power and franchise when 7th December coming. We
yes.
actually go
How far is
4
that?
months. Now,
Yes.
a lot can happen in that 4 months.
Yes.
In terms of how to moderate, regulate their language
Yes.
and the way they go about
Yes.
their campaign activities.
Yes. So let's organize ourselves and tell them that we don't like that.
Right.
We have so many ways of organizing ourselves. We have our faith-based institutions. We have other organizations. We have organizations, we have traditional rulers.
Right.
We have institutions of state. Let's organize ourselves and tell them we do not appreciate this. And we are not saying it because it's an institutional, but the people have told us to tell you, we don't like this, and we will punish you for this. Yes.
We really need to
The
mobilize
power
ourselves
lies with
and
the
do
people.
this. Yeah.
The power really lies with the people. We have to really recognize that.
And you've been doing some other engagements as well, meeting with media, political consultation visits, public education at markets. I see some pictures.
Yes.
Give me a wrap of what these other engagements are.
All right. And we are grateful that you're showing the pictures for us, because the thing is that NCCE is a decentralized organization. I always tell people that if you don't see me on Joy, it doesn't mean the work is not going on. If you don't see me on Joy, it doesn't mean yes, we are paying visits to some of the political parties.
Right.
This was APC. We have reactivated our civic education IPDCs, which is the inter-party dialogue committees. You know, these are committees, district-based committees that are made up of representatives from both political parties at the district level. Sometimes when things are happening at the national level, it's very heated, all that. A lot of work goes on the ground. So we have the IPDCs, inter-party dialogue committees. So you see this gentleman, that's our staff. See how he has caught the attention of these young people.
Yep.
This is the kind of work that NCC is doing on a daily basis. It's not glamorous work, so you won't see it.
You're working.
But it's going on. Right. It's not optimal. Let me not even, it's not optimal at all, right? But the work is always going on. You understand? You understand?
Also at radio stations, I see.
Across the country, all the time. Every week we are out there. This was an engagement with the Ghana Compact that is also trying to put a new compact together for the leaders when they come into power, so that they have another layer of guidance and accountability to the people. So the IPDCs have been activated. They include the representatives of political parties at the local level, traditional rulers, faith-based institutions, security. And what they do is that they solve problems that emerge at the local level. So you will never hear that there was a big problem over somebody pasting poster over somebody in some community somewhere. You will hear it if it happens in the city, right? So at that point, instead of waiting...
Do these still happen? Do the issues like these still come up?
Of course. So instead of, leaving it to fester and blow up, and you find that there are all kinds of interventions that happen.
Right.
So our inter-party dialogue committees serve that purpose. So because there's representation of all these influential people in the community, they sit together and they try and, resolve some of these problems, because they are all there in their community and nobody really knows about them.
We've
also held dialogues, public dialogues focused on violence in particular. And one of our major concerns as an institution is the threat that we're facing as a country, or external forces infiltrating our country and creating the problems that we are seeing in other countries in the sub-region. As you know, these disturbances in those countries are not just, it's not just happening, you know, there are actually powerful forces at play, violent extremists, global forces, global conflict and shifting of power is playing out on the continent as well. And so we have to take that into consideration. Our country, we are not unique. In fact, Ghana is the prize when it comes to these things. There's no country that would not want in this West Africa to have control here. And there's no agenda that will not be accelerated if Ghana is part of it, you know. So we actually quite more vulnerable this year than most election years, because in the past we haven't had this problem with the external threat, right? But now we do. And so we've had these public dialogues, particularly in the north, where that's the front line of infiltration, particularly violent extremists. There again, we're working in communities, at local level, teaching people how to recognize the threat, because that whole scenario is very different from Accra life.
It is.
It's very different.
Sometimes when you live in Accra, you think everything you see here is plush and beautiful, and it's the same everywhere else, but it's really
not only that. When you live in Accra, you think that the issues that grab your attention, that the media agenda setting issue here is relevant to everywhere in the country. Sometimes not, yes. And then also when you live out there, for instance, on our borders, right? We sit here in Accra and we think that the border is a line that, most borders run through communities. Most of the border runs through communities.
In fact, there's nothing visible to...
And in those communities, the people live their lives. There's no line. Somebody may have a living room in one country and the kitchen in another country, simply because somebody drew a line through their community, and that line did not change their way of life, you know. So when people are in this community, how do you ensure that they have the awareness to make sure that there's no infiltration through this community living that they're doing that brings a threat into our country? So we are holding these public dialogues around those issues. There's a lot of work going on. Not 100%. We still need a lot of resources. It's still an under-resourced institution.
Make this your final bit for me, because we have to go.
Well, I would just want to highlight our thematic areas as well. As we are going about looking at those seeking power, as we are going about trying to make a decision about who should represent you, please take these things into consideration. Do not sell your vote, and take a strong hard look at those who are trying to buy your vote. Secondly, misinformation, disinformation, and fake news. Let it end with you. Do not forward or share information that you can tell is meant to cause harm, is meant to incite others, and all of that. Don't share. And tell the person who sent it to you that they shouldn't do that again. The third one is violence and intemperate language. We are getting into that side. And let's try and organize ourselves for those seeking power to know that we don't find that attractive.
We do have to go. Thank you so much for leading the charge. Madam Kathleen Addy is the chairperson for the National Commission for Civic Education, and they're doing a fantastic job. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Okay. Before I go, a gentle reminder that your favorite podcast show, Bus Stop Diaries, now airs every Saturday at 4 p.m. on the Joy News channel. You can also watch and listen to all other episodes on the Joy News channel on YouTube, myjoyonline.com, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. This Saturday and every other Saturday, grab a chill drink and join us for another exciting journey filled with trending buzz. And also, remember to escape to Royal Cozy Hills Hotel. That is Jurapa, Dubai. You've seen the rest here. Now it's time to see the best. So take a break from work, take a break from the south. The Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, Jurapa, Dubai, is the best place to relax, rewind, and re-energize. It is away from all the stress and wahala here in the south. Now, what awaits you? Unforgettable safari experience, amazing array of wildlife, including lions, hippopotamuses, zebras, ostriches, among others, using their well-secured game tour vehicles and quad bikes. There is also water sports such as jet skiing, boat and canoe rides, etc., as well as various family games to keep you and your family excited all day long. If you're curious about tourist attractions, there is the Mushroom Rock, the Slave Cave, and so many other things awaiting you at Jurapa, Dubai, the Royal Cozy Hills Hotel. Now, here are their phone lines, 0501-694-280 or 024-88-44463. Call them for reservations and further inquiries. And that's our show for this morning. My name is Sweetie Abochin. I did this with Benjamin Akako. Joy News Desk is up next. Tuesday.